Tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide news at this hour, Jamaicans being warned that drought conditions will persist for the foreseeable future.
Dryness continuing over sections of the island going through much of July, even going into August, where we have those drier conditions that are expected to be impacting our island.
The NWC has begun taking measures to tackle the drought affecting the island.
El Hydro Limited threatens the Gleaner Company with legal action.
Businessman William Mahfood is proposing that the government import Haitian workers to fill the gaps in Jamaica's labor force.
JUTC to add several new routes as it gets 93 new buses.
In news from the rest of the world, 66 undocumented Haitians and Cubans deported from the Bahamas.
US says specific steps agreed to end Syria violence after Israeli strikes hit Damascus.
In headline sports, renovated National Stadium to be 90% covered with an increase in the seating capacity and a new tier parking system.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, Jamaica will be facing dry conditions for the foreseeable future, and the government has started drought mitigation measures. We'll hear from Principal Director of the Met Service, Evan Thompson, and Acting President of the NWC, Garth Jackson.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask your reaction to the 100-year sentence of a taxi operator for raping his daughter and stepdaughter. Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, we continue our discussion with business leaders about the challenges in finding and retaining workers. We'll hear from President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Wayne Chen, CEO of National Rums of Jamaica Limited, Martha Miller, and roaming CEO of the Musson Group, Jeffrey Moss Solomon.
At 7, a Jamaican man is among 5 migrants expelled from the United States to the African Kingdom of Eswatini. Immigration attorney Opal Lee, Managing Director of Caribbean Immigrant Services, Erwin Clear, and educator and social commentator Dr. Karen Dunkley will join us to discuss.
And at 8, it's Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings Weathers. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, NationwideRadioJM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, it's Wednesday, July 16, 2025.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now the details. Jamaica is in a drought. Principal Director of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, the Met Service, Evan Thompson, today confirmed that the country will be experiencing drought conditions for the foreseeable future. He made the revelation at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing at the office of the Prime Minister.
So here we see in the period that we are currently in, going until next week, we are expecting lots of dryness, mainly over the southern part of the island. And you see that large area of reds and browns that is south of the island, but somewhat impacting on the island of Jamaica. And that's what we are expecting over the next few days. But then we are expecting the browns to continue in terms of the dryness continuing over sections of the island going through much of July. Here we have it even going into August, where we have those drier conditions that are expected to be impacting our island.
Mr. Thompson says the dry period may come to an end around October.
Some of that could change in the longer term, but of course, we're looking at the immediate future, and we're seeing that there's a lot of dryness to be expected over the island. This is going into August, but then we take a look at our 3 to 6 month outlook. And for the first 3 months, the top of our image shows us that more of the wetness should be expected toward the western half of the island, but the eastern half could still continue to experience some amount of dryness, and this is for the period July, August, and September. As we move to the lower image with October going through December, that's when we do expect to see a change. As you know, traditionally, we would have an increase in wetness or rainfall as we go through October. So we are expecting that we will have some amount of rainfall, that it will change the picture somewhat, but that is as we go toward the end of 2025.
Evan Thompson, Principal Director of the Met Service.
Meanwhile, Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, says the government is allocating $350 million for drought mitigation efforts.
Consequent on the three presentations you would have just heard from the Met Service, the WRA, and the National Water Commission, I'm announcing this morning a suite of measures for drought mitigation efforts from your government of 350 million Jamaican dollars. Those measures will include $250 million, which will be executed by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, which will see trucking that will be directed through members of Parliament to the tune of approximately $150 million. It will see further trucking support to the National Water Commission of approximately $50 million to service critical infrastructure and $50 million towards additional tank purchases.
He says farmers will also benefit from a drought relief allocation.
We also expect through the Ministry of Agriculture, and I've spoken to Minister Green and he asked me to share this with you, that we will execute drought mitigation measures for our farmers to the tune of $100 million that will be shared between water, trucking, drip irrigation systems, and grass purchases. He will speak to that in greater detail later this week.
Matthew Samuda, Minister of Responsibility for Water. He was speaking at a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday at the office of the Prime Minister.
And the National Water Commission, NWC, has begun taking measures to tackle the drought affecting the island. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
Garth Jackson says the NWC is already feeling the effects of the drought. The Commission's acting president says key water sources for the corporate area have already reached cautionary levels.
We have about 450 systems operate island-wide, and about 44 of those have been affected in some way by the dry season. 23 of those are operating probably just below 50% capacity, but the rest of them are above that and all others. Now, in terms of the larger impoundment, raw water impoundments, those affect those serving Kingston and St. Andrew. The Hermitage Dam, 246 million gallons of storage, and so we're at about 62%. The levels are falling about 1% per day. Our usual caution level is about 65%, so we're just about there now. With respect to Mona, we have about 404 million gallons in storage. That's about 50% of the capacity. It also is falling at about 1% per day.
Mr. Jackson says the NWC is applying multiple mitigation measures to lessen the expected impact of the drought in the corporate area.
So being recommissioned, and that will bring about just over 2 million gallons of water additional into service so that we can cut back on the regular abstraction from the raw water impoundments. We have just completed replacing a storage tank, a 1.5 million storage tank on the Hope property, and that will allow us some operational flexibility in how we distribute water to areas served by the Hope system, which is generally Hope Road, sections of Mona. We are doing some non-revenue water in the greater Portmore area, and that will allow us to reduce the amount of input into those areas.
He notes that the Commission is also taking action to address the impact of the drought in rural areas.
In terms of the rural communities, we have actually completed the cleaning of a number of our spring heads as well as the intake channels. We're also having to consider, although it's very uneconomical, how we treat with trucking and also the ensuring that the wayside tanks are full. And of course, the important thing is to ensure that we can get the message out to our customers and consumers that they need to conserve and that we're doing all we can to reduce the wastage of water or the inappropriate use of water. So for a number of systems island-wide, we're doing some immediate non-revenue water reduction activities.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
El Hydro Limited is threatening to take legal action against the Gleaner Company unless it retracts what it says are false, misleading and defamatory claims published in last Sunday's publication. The Sunday Gleaner report plunged El Hydro into the controversy surrounding the importation of 110 buses for the government's rural school bus program. However, in a letter sent to the Gleaner this week, El Hydro demanded a full retraction and public apology, saying the Gleaner wrongly implied it had breached Jamaican law. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
The Gleaner's lead story published on July 13, 2025 under the headline, "Not Certified. El Hydro got $1.4 billion school bus contract without dealer status." El Hydro says the story wrongly reported that it had breached Jamaican law by importing school buses without the required permits or certification. According to El Hydro, the allegations were not only factually incorrect, but also damaging to its business reputation. In a strongly worded letter to the Gleaner, the company says due diligence, proper investigations, and inquiries would have revealed that the particular vehicles were imported by the government of Jamaica through the relevant ministry with responsibility for transportation. El Hydro has given the newspaper until July 21, 2025 to issue a correction and apology. It says if the Gleaner fails to do so, it will instruct its attorneys to file a claim in the Supreme Court seeking aggravated and punitive damages along with legal costs. The latest development follows weeks of scrutiny surrounding the government's rural school bus program. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz has gone on record saying his ministry is the importer of the buses in question and not El Hydro Limited. He also published the import license which names the ministry as the importer, which was approved on June 23, 2025. El Hydro now insists that its role in the process was misrepresented and that the government itself handled the importation of the buses. The company also argues that the repeated suggestions of impropriety across multiple Gleaner articles have unfairly damaged its corporate reputation. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Member of the JLP's Communication Task Force, Senator Marlon Morgan, is hailing the new record low of Jamaica's unemployment rate as evidence of good stewardship by the Andrew Holness-led administration.
The Statistical Institute's latest report, along with an increase in business and consumer confidence, are the most compelling indicators yet that Jamaica is headed in the right direction. There is no government in the history of this country that can boast the record of performance and achievement in service to the Jamaican people that this Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government can boast. Our bid for the third consecutive term of office is based on our incomparable record and our plans to deliver even more for the Jamaican people in a third term of office.
The country's unemployment rate has fallen to a new record low of 3.3%. The figure was disclosed in the April 2025 Labour Force Survey by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin. It's an improvement over the 3.7% recorded in the previous quarter. Also, for the second quarter of 2025 ending in June, there was a 1.7% increase in business confidence. Consumer confidence also improved over the period by 1.4%. Senator Morgan says the positive indicators signal an increase in the vote of confidence placed in the government by Jamaicans.
Jamaica's new record low unemployment of 3.3% comes on the heels of a welcomed return to economic growth in the first quarter of calendar year 2025, following, of course, the adverse effects of Hurricane Beryl last year. It is readily understood that business and consumer confidence signal how people feel about their economy and their outlook on the future. And as such, the increase in these indicators constitute a strong vote of confidence in the government going into the upcoming general elections.
Senator Marlon Morgan, member of the JLP's Communication Task Force.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
It's IQ Optical's sizzling summer sale. For this month only, get 50% off lenses when you purchase a frame. Kids get free lenses with a purchase of a frame. Make the intelligent choice with IQ Optical. Conditions apply. The time by IQ Optical is
14 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
Continuing the news, Chairman of the Wisynco Group, William Mafood, is proposing that the government import Haitian workers to fill the gaps in Jamaica's labor force. Mr. Mafood has joined several business leaders who are lamenting the high turnover rate of employees.
at a very, very high level, CARICOM and the integration was supposed to allow complete freedom of movement of people. And I asked the question just before the Prime Minister had to leave for their meeting about why don't we open up to Haiti? Because right there you have a terribly distressed workforce. Many of them would jump at the opportunity to come to Jamaica, and especially for skilled workers. If we could put in a process where we say, okay, let's open up to some of the skilled workers, I think the solution is at a regional level.
He says businesses are experiencing a high turnover of both the skilled and low-skilled workers. He notes that while the younger generation is reluctant to work their way up from the bottom, companies are losing skilled labor to migration. Mr. Mahfood says the importation of labor may be the solution to the growing problem, but some details need to be ironed out first.
It's to work out the mechanics of it, right? It's not like you couldn't say tomorrow morning, let's completely open up our borders to Haiti, because you'd have a mass influx and we would probably not be able. The social, the all of the regulatory issues, the health services, education, etc., would not be able to handle the volume of people. But if you did it in a way that allowed for controlled migration, I think it would help us a lot. It would help Haiti as well.
William Mahfood, chairman of the Wisynco Group.
A Jamaican is among 5 people who've been deported by the U.S. to the southern African kingdom of Eswatini. The U.S. has described the 5 as criminal illegal aliens. The other 4 deportees on the flight are from Vietnam, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen. In an online post, U.S. Homeland Security Department Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin stated that the deportees had been convicted of crimes ranging from child rape to murder. The Jamaican, a dark-skinned grizzled man based on a shared photo, was reportedly convicted of murder, for which he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He was also convicted of robbery, landing him 6 years of confinement, and possession of a weapon, for which he was sentenced to 6 months in prison. McLaughlin wrote on X that the flight took individuals so uniquely barbaric that their home countries refused to take them back. The U.S. authorities will work with the United Nations Immigration Agency to facilitate the transit of the deportees to their country of origin.
The Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC will be introducing new inter-parish routes going as far as Kingston to Mandeville. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz made the announcement at the handing over ceremony of 93 buses to the JUTC's fleet on Wednesday.
The JUTC will be introducing several new inter-parish routes. Of the 30 new diesel buses, 15 will be dedicated to launching the new JUTC Rural Express service, offering premium travel on long-haul direct routes from Halfway Tree Centre to Negril, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Port Antonio, Mandeville, with minimal stops. Just 1 or 2 per trip at an introductory fare of $2,000. So you can go from Kingston to Negril, $2,000 affordability.
The 93 buses are valued at a cost of approximately $2.3 billion. 7 other buses are being specially retrofitted for members of the disabled community. Those are set to arrive in August. Minister Vaz highlighted several other routes that will be added to the JUTC service.
We'll be doing Montego Bay to Savlamar, Lucy to Negril, Montego Bay to Cornwall Courts, Green Pond, Montego Bay to Lucy, and other upcoming routes in the pipeline, Savlamar to White House, and Falmouth to Wakefield. The JUTC is also expanding routes out of Spanish Town with new services to Linstead via the highway, Spanish Town to Kidston Town, and extending JUTC's reach, while the 70 CNG buses will be deployed along new routes across Spanish Town Depot Corridor. I'm going to give you routes from Longville to Kingston, that's in Clarendon, Linstead to Kingston, Kidston Town to Spanish Town to Mandeville, everywhere them go. Them going to see bus after bus.
Darrell Vaz, Minister of Transport.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute. 66 undocumented migrants were repatriated from the Bahamas on Tuesday. The group consisted of 60 Haitians and 6 Cubans. The deportation exercise was carried out by the Department of Immigration. The 60 Haitian nationals, 51 men and 9 women, were sent to Cape Haitian in Haiti, and the second group of 6 Cuban males were repatriated to Havana, Cuba. They were escorted by 13 immigration officers led by the department's deportation and enforcement units. Officials from the department say all the necessary health and security protocols were observed.
The U.S. has revealed that an agreement has been reached to bring an end to the violence in Syria by the end of Wednesday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made the disclosure in a post on X. He says all sides have agreed on steps to bring the violence to an end after Israeli strikes hit the capital, Damascus. Syria has welcomed efforts to resolve the situation. In a statement, the country's foreign ministry says it's ready to cooperate with all parties that seek appeasement and stability. However, Israel has yet to comment. Israel says it struck a military headquarters and a military target near the presidential palace. 3 Syrian commanders were killed in the attacks.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Jamaica is in the grips of a drought that is expected to persist into the foreseeable future.
But the NWC has begun taking measures to tackle the drought affecting the island.
El Hydro Limited threatens the Gleaner Company with legal action.
Businessman William Mahfood is proposing that the government import Haitian workers to fill the gaps in Jamaica's labor force.
I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. News next. The headlines at 6.
I use the Radar app to help source my seeds and also my seedlings.
Me run my farm as a business, so I use the app for weather forecast and crop planning.
When me need me extension officer, I just book and visit on the app. Quick time she reach. We check pest alert every morning. Me now make her mash up my ground.
Real farmers, real support, real easy. Crop Radar and Farm Smarter. Get the mobile app on Android and iOS.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony at 61 Hagley Park Road. Through the Local Economic Development Support Program, over $10 million will be awarded to 250 grassroots entrepreneurs in sectors such as health and wellness, food and agro-processing, art, craft, fashion, and more. Join us as we celebrate Jamaica's entrepreneurial spirit during Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Social Development Commission.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The National Stadium will have a seating capacity of 37,500 and will be 90% covered when the redevelopment work is completed in 2027-28. This was revealed at a press conference at the Sports Ministry on Wednesday, where the media was given an update on how the project's proceeding. Work is set to start next year and last for 3 years, during which time the facility will remain partially open for special events to include boys and girls champs, but on a scaled-down basis. The new stadium would also accommodate 50,000 patrons for concert-like events and will also have the trappings of a modern stadium. It will be outfitted with elevators, 30 new state-of-the-art VIP boxes, a fan boulevard, and a fan zone. The stadium will also have a 9-lane track to make it World Athletics compliant. There'll also be a built-in mixed zone and a 300% increase in parking. There'll be a new tier parking facility across the road from the existing stadium parking lot. Jonathan Seebacker, a principal at Ryder Architecture, says the stadium will be comparable to the best in the world.
We're looking at a world-class stadium with a raft of world-class facilities, and that takes time. Quality takes time. This will be best in class. It's befitting of a stadium anywhere else in the world. We need to invest that time to make sure we design it properly, make sure we meet and surpass everyone's needs and expectations, and make sure it's built in accordance with all the rules and to the quality that we expect.
Seebacker also explained the rationale behind a 90% covered stadium as opposed to a fully covered one.
It's the limiting factor of retaining the existing stand. So the existing stand at Independence Park is, culturally iconic in terms of its design. It's protected from a planning perspective, and it would be wrong to knock that down. But the limitations of that current stand, if anyone's been to the stadium, will know that it doesn't cover all of the seats in that area, and that's the only part of the stadium that's uncovered.
That's Jonathan Seebacker from Ryder Architecture. And the Sports Minister, Olivia Green, says the people of the country will, in the end, have a stadium they can be proud of.
It's an investment, athletes, it's an investment in infrastructure. We will be a world-class facility, and we'll be in a position to host world-class events.
That's Olivia Grange. Jamaica's Andre Russell will retire from international cricket after the second T20 international against Australia on his home ground at Sabina Park next Tuesday. Russell was on Wednesday named in a West Indies 16-man squad for the 5-game series against the Aussies. However, he will only play in the first 2 to coincide with his retirement on home soil after the second game. Russell will then be replaced in the side by Matthew Ford for the other 3 games in St. Kitts. The 2012 and 2016 World Cup winner will end his career with 86 T20 internationals to go along with a solitary test match and 56 one-day internationals. President of the Jamaica Cricket Association, Don Bennett, says Russell's presence will be missed.
Well, it's going to be a loss. I am disappointed because I personally think that he still had a lot to offer. But that is Andre's decision, so to make, and we have to respect that and to thank him for contributions that he has made both to Jamaica's cricket and to West Indies, of course.
Russell will be the second high-profile player after Nicholas Pooran to call time on his career within the past 2 months. Russell had indicated before the last T20 World Cup that he would retire from the sport, but was persuaded to extend his career by coach Darren Sammy. Bennett says there's a myriad of strength that Russell possesses in his arsenal that made him one of the best limited overs cricketers in the world.
His intensity, his commitment to the cause, right? The fact that he has stuck around for so long, he's 37 years old, while other people who are much younger have pulled out of the system. Andre has gone and taken a long journey. At 37, most people find at 37 that they just can't go anymore. All the various injuries, etc., has taken a toll on him or on people of that age. So I'm not surprised, but like I said, I'm disappointed.
That's Donovan Bennett, president of the Jamaica Cricket Association. Meanwhile, exciting young prospects, Jediah Blades and Joel Andrew, are the 2 first-time call-ups to the West Indies T20 squad. Seasoned campaigners Jason Holder, Rovman Powell, and Akeel Hussain are also back in the squad. The rest of the Shea Hope-led aggregation reads Ruston Chase, Shimron Hitmar, Gudakesh Moti, Matthew Ford, Alzari Joseph, Brandon King, Evan Lewis, Sherfian Rutherford, and Romario Shepherd. The first 2 games, as I mentioned, will be played at Sabina Park. The teams are using the games as preparation for the T20 World Cup next year. And finally, in sports at this time, the GK1 Howard McCarthy Community Basketball League continues with 5 matches at 3 venues this evening. At Up Park Camp, JDF will play Tivoli at 6. Meanwhile, in the first match of a doubleheader at Excelsior Court, UWI will take on Nanaville Youth at 6 before home team Exed Heat take on Harbourview Supernovas. Over at the Grandspent Court, Delacree Park will lock horns with Majesty Gardens Legends in the opening encounter of a doubleheader. In the second game, Grandspent entertain the Phoenix Net Strippers team. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Cubby's Baby Wipes is ideal for your baby's delicate skin, infused with vitamin E and aloe vera, and available for home or on the go. The time by Cubby's Baby Wipes is
5:30.
Bosco Bell St. Mary is your newest gateway to Miami. Daily flights are available for your convenience. The temperature brought to you by the Airport Authority of Jamaica is
31 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's a 30 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Tired of waiting for your ride? Want safety and peace of mind on every journey? Amber On Time is here. With verified drivers, real-time vehicle tracking, and panic button with armed security response, your safety is our priority. Reliable service, easy booking, premium experience, it's all just a tap away. Download Amber On Time today.
Stay cool and save energy with the perfect ceiling fan for every room at prices you'll love. At Active Home Center, we've got fans to fit every space and every budget. From affordable options to premium designs with energy-efficient DC motors. Whether it's your bedroom, living room, or patio, there's a fan for every corner of your home. Hurry in for deep discounts on select fans while stocks last. Shop fans at Active Home Center in Kingston and Montego Bay. Active Home Center, more savings, more choices.
Government of Jamaica is investing in a C5 center. What is happening here in terms of the cameras will be fed into our national strategic coordination of the cameras and other sensors that are deployed across Jamaica. So we're not just talking about security, we are putting it in. So all the people talking about cameras and body-worn cameras, come on man, the government knows what it is doing and we are moving with speed and alacrity to have it installed. It is in the government's interest, in your interest, that our police officers have body-worn cameras. We don't want to have cameras that we put on and then it doesn't work. Not about cameras. It's about an ecosystem where each officer can capture the situation that confronts them and have that evidence capture stored in a retrievable way, but in a secure way that it cannot be manipulated so that it reaches evidentiary standards for court proceeding. That is what we want. And so it takes time to build out that so that it has endurance. And that is what we're doing.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The following is a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
The Jamaica Labour Party Area Council 1 presents Central Kingston Choose Jamaica public meeting this Sunday, July 25 p.m. at the intersection of Hitchin and Great George's Street in Almond Town. Deputy Leader Desmond McKenzie and host Member of Parliament Donovan Williams will be on the road with champion MPs Darrell Vaz, Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, Delroy Chuck, Delroy Williams, Dwayne Smith, Senators Abka Fitz-Henley, Shireen Golding Campbell and others. Come hear messages of substance as the Jamaica Labour Party's mission to improve lives is active and strong. Choose Jamaica public meeting this Sunday, 5 p.m. in Almond Town, Central Kingston. No worry, Impact Boss Donovan Williams understands. Donovan cares. No sellout twinting. We choose Jamaica.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
Cover Story is brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It's 5:34. It is the 16th of July. Welcome to the Cover Story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
My name is Sanjay Lewis. Good afternoon, Siobhan, and good afternoon to our listeners. And this afternoon, we're looking at the drought problem that we're having here in the country. And that's because Jamaica is facing a prolonged dry period with dry conditions expected to persist. This, according to the Principal Director of the Met Service, Evan Thompson.
Some of that could change in the longer term, but of course, we're looking at the immediate future, and we're seeing that there's a lot of dryness to be expected over the island. This is going into August, but then we take a look at our 3 to 6 month outlook. And for the first 3 months, the top of our image shows us that more of the wetness should be expected toward the western half of the island, but the eastern half could still continue to experience some amount of dryness, and this is for the period July, August, and September. As we move to the lower image with October going through December, that's when we do expect to see a change. As you know, traditionally, we would have an increase in wetness or rainfall as we go through October. So we are expecting that we will have some amount of rainfall, that it will change the picture somewhat, but that is as we go toward the end of 2025.
Well, that's Evan Thompson. He was speaking for the Meteorological Services of Jamaica. Well, the government has allocated $350 million for drought mitigation efforts. The National Water Commission says key water sources in the corporate area are already reaching cautionary levels. And its acting president, Garth Jackson, says the commission has started applying multiple mitigation measures to lessen the drought impacts in both urban and rural areas. Well, both Mr. Jackson and Mr. Thompson now join us to discuss the way forward. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Hi.
Good afternoon to you both. Let's start with you, Mr. Thompson. You gave quite a bleak picture there. You don't expect things to really improve until around October. How certain are we of this forecast now?
Well, we're pretty confident that what we're seeing is what we will be experiencing over the next few months. This is really a dry period that we would normally experience between June and September, and so that's really what we've been having. The rainfall in May was not really up to par in terms of what is normal for that month, and then in June we had a similar pattern that continued. The rainfall for June was pretty low. And so going through July, we know from our experience, we've been having some rain, but it's not as much as we would normally experience at this time either. So we're seeing below normal rainfall going through the past couple of months. And what we're seeing in the projection, at least for the next few weeks, is that we will continue to experience some amount of dryness. It might not be a severe drought right across the country, but we are expecting that there are some areas that may experience some drought conditions.
And Evan Thompson, when you compare what we're experiencing now to last year, the year before, would you say that what we're seeing this year is particularly bad?
What we're seeing now is probably a little bit worse than we experienced last year. The year before that, probably things were worse. So it's not the worst that we have seen at this time of the year. We have had more intense drought periods. And in fact, the main parish that is experiencing drought right now is St. James, but the eastern half of the island is also seeing some amount of dryness. We're seeing some areas experiencing severe dryness, some abnormal dryness, so it's different levels of dryness, but not exactly experiencing drought conditions at this time. But because we're not expecting a significant improvement in the short term, some conditions, we just have to be prepared for the worsening of the situation for the next few weeks.
And Garth Jackson, as it relates to potable water, should we anticipate, you said that we're not operating at cautionary levels, should people both in the west and eastern parts of the island anticipate that we could see water restrictions in the near future?
Yes, we have to be mindful that as we are into the dry season, and as everyone pointed out, we did not get the rainfall that we usually expect in the May period, and so our levels are below what the main impoundment levels are below what it was last year. However, our systems we have done some significant improvements to the resilience of our system, and therefore, and with the early attention to the contingency measures, we expect to be able to mitigate the impact on our customers. But we have to caution them that, yes, there's going to be some restrictions in the next few days, starting in the next few days.
Mr. Thompson, talk to us about some of those measures you have implemented, because year after year, we know this period we're going to have a drought. We're expecting low rainfall. Some would say by now the NWC should get it right.
I think you want to refer that to the NWC.
I beg your pardon. That should be for Mr. Jackson. My apologies.
All right.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things. A number of things we have done. Both short, medium, and long-term measures.
Yes.
So in terms of the immediate term, we have actually reactivated our Beverly Hills and our Cavaliers wells, Beverly Hills wells and Cavalier wells, as well as the Upper Camp wells. And so we're relying more heavily on the groundwater storage than what we would during the wet period. And so that will mitigate some of the impact of the reduction from our surface water, the Mona, the Hermitage plants. We have actually also in the more short-term measures, we have actually carried out significant amounts of non-revenue water programs, reduction and control programs, and that would have reduced the demand on our system, and so we'd have a little bit more water. So that has been carried out in Kingston, and it's being carried, and it's winding up in Portmore now. So that will have some impact. We have actually also reconstructed a large 1.5 million gallon storage tank in the Hope area, which will allow us to be able to operate with greater flexibility. We'll have greater storage, greater reliability, and a certain degree of storage there. So we have done those short-term measures. In the medium term and long term, you'll be aware of the recently started construction of the Rear Corbray 15 million gallon water treatment plant.
Mm-hmm. And I have to ask though, just for the sake of reference, what is the current water levels at the main reservoir facilities?
All right, so if we're focusing on Kingston and St. Andrew, which I don't really want to, but if we focus on Kingston and St. Andrew at this time, our water level today at Hermitage was at 241 million gallons per day, which is about just over 61% of our capacity. Those levels are falling at roughly 1% per day, and so we have to make the transition there. The transition in terms of operating regimes. In terms of Mona, the water level there is about 393 million gallons out of the capacity 800 million gallons, so it's at about 49% of capacity. That also is falling at about 1% per day, and that is what we intend to do by the measures we're putting in place to reduce the rate of fall, and therefore to ensure that we can continue supply through the dry period until the rains come later on in the year.
Okay, please stay with us, gentlemen. We're up on a break.
Clear your barrels and personal shipments with ease and convenience. Request a customs contactless clearance today through CCP at jca.gov.jm. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
It's 5:43.
Bird Shack fried chicken always ready. Bird Shack, original crispy. Bird Shack, Cajun spicy. Bird Shack, a barbecue. Bird Shack, we are go a Bird Shack.
The temperature brought to you by Bird Shack Fried Chicken in Kingston, Montego Bay, and Ocho is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston. It's 30 out west in Montego Bay.
Is your money idling when it could be thriving? With CIBC Caribbean's fixed deposit offering, you can take charge of your cash. With 50,000 Jamaican to start, choose terms from 30 days to 2 years. Lock in your funds and enjoy premium rates guaranteed to grow your wealth. Whether you're eyeing short or long-term gains, our fixed deposit account puts you firmly in control of your money. Now is the time to open a CIBC fixed deposit account and start earning more today. CIBC, ambitions made real.
passion and vibes. And through it all, there's a glow inside. Let's keep our shine alive.
From the market to the factory floors, from the hillside green to golden shores,
we're reaching heights, our energy that lights the sky.
JPS, powering what matters.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're talking drought mitigation measures as we head into a rather dry spell across the western parish mostly, but the eastern areas are also being affected. We have with us the Principal Director of the Met Service, Evan Thompson, and the Acting President of the NWC, Garth Jackson. I want to take it back to you there, Mr. Thompson, in terms of the concerns over climate change and the impact it's having on our weather patterns over the long term. What exactly over the period, let's say the last 5-10 years, have you seen in terms of the trajectory of our water resource, in terms of, are you seeing a shift in terms of the rainy versus dry periods in the country, and how is that shift looking?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we are seeing some changes with respect to what we had anticipated from climate change. Of course, from weather patterns, we see the changes in terms of intense rainfall and how it occurs, and then, of course, the longer periods of dryness and drought developing and sometimes more intense. So we've been getting more and more accustomed to hearing about drought conditions across Jamaica. Over the past 10 more years, we've been hearing about not just dry season, but we're hearing about drought repeatedly coming back every year. There are parishes or sections of the country that have been experiencing these drought conditions. And as you say, we do notice that there is some shifting, because as we have always talked about the pattern of the rainfall, where we have a primary rainfall season that occurs, peaks in October, and then a secondary peak that occurs around about May going into June. But what we're seeing with the May-June period, which is the most recent one that would have passed, May was pretty dry. We had more rainfall in April than we did in May, and then June has picked up being a very dry month as well. Usually we move to July being the driest in the summer period, but it seems that it is shifting a little bit to being more like June, and then the rainy season instead of May is occurring a little bit earlier. So there are some shifts that we're seeing. Whether that will be a continuous shift and whether we will actually see a new peak developing in the 30-year mean is something that we're watching. But we do notice that there is a general drying trend as we look from one 30-year period to the next. So the past 30 years that ended in 2010 looks a little bit wetter than what we're seeing now in this recent 30-year period that ends in 2020, based on our climatological normals that we have worked out. So things have been drying out as well as getting a bit warmer, because, the temperatures are increasing, and, with evapotranspiration taking place, all those who are dealing with the agricultural concerns also have that to really be concerned about, because there is a lot more dryness in the soil because of the excess heat and with the less rainfall in many areas. So there are many things to think about, and we believe that climate change is really at the center of all these changes taking place.
Interesting.
And based on what you've seen, Mr. Jackson, so far this year, have the NWC been forced to activate any forced lock-off, considering the shortfall of supply that you have?
Well, yes, we are in the process now of fine-tuning what the arrangements are going to be. And you should see an announcement in the next day or two as to what will be the situation in the Kingston and St. Andrew area. So in addition to us dealing with modulating the flows to the discrete supply areas, and as I mentioned, increasing the use of groundwater resources, we will be transferring a bit more water that would normally go into the St. Catherine area, the Portmore area in particular. We're having carried out a significant amount of non-revenue water reduction. We are now able to transmit more water. Right now, be able to transmit some more water into the Kingston and St. Andrew without there being an impact, a negative impact on Portmore. We also and bear with me that a lot of what we're speaking about here is strictly related to the water resource itself. We're not talking about issues related to breakdown of motors, pumps, etc., power supply issues, and so forth. So those, that's a separate issue. So what we're focusing on here is really what we can do with the available water resources. So also the Alice pipeline has had some unauthorized abstraction. We're dealing with those issues. We're looking at strengthening the secondary distribution mains. That's more of a medium-term activity within the corporate area so that we can actually address that. Address the ability to supply more persons with a limited amount of water. So there's going to be some restrictions on flows, but we expect that we will schedule that in a way that persons will always have water on a daily basis. Yes. But they will always have water on a daily basis, but it may not be at the time when it won't be 24 hours a day. Secondly, we of course have to appeal to our customers and our consumers to ensure that they can't serve as best as possible. They recognize the perennial periodic changes in available water. And until we can get the more medium and long-term measures in place, then we have to really find a way to deal with the contingency, put the contingencies in place to deal with the situation.
Hold on, just before you come in, Siobhan, Mr. Jackson, you spoke about the Yallahs pipeline, some unauthorized extraction. Individuals are, in essence, stealing the water. Talk to me about that.
All right. The water passes through a number of communities between Damhead in St. Thomas all the way to Mona, and they have at various locations made their own arrangements to siphon off water from those systems. We have policed that, and we know exactly where these things are occurring, and we have appealed and we have worked with the communities to ensure that we both get what we want out of this. So we will be ensuring that we can control that level, and we anticipate that they will not be wasteful of their needs as they make efforts to meet their needs.
And I just want to really focus on the long-term aspect of this, Mr. Jackson, because we come here almost annually to have this same conversation about drought and mitigation and what's being done. So what is the root of our water challenges? Is it a problem of supply, or is it a problem of distribution and the infrastructure required to do so?
Well, you have touched on all the things that affect the water supply. And again, I'm just going to use Kingston as the basis of the discussion. For Kingston and St. Andrew, and to a larger extent, Greater Spanish Town, Southeast St. Catherine, which is Portmore, Old Portmore, Greater Portmore, and Southeast and Hillshaw. We have, as you're probably aware, as you drive along the north-south highway, just approaching the rear Coburg River, on the right-hand side, construction is underway for our 15 million gallon per day water treatment plant. So that we expect to deliver water within the next 24 months. We should have water, additional water flowing into Kingston. But as you say, what do we do with that once we get it into Kingston? How do we ensure that we don't lose significant amounts of that via either physical or commercial losses? So we have actually done significant work in Kingston and St. Andrew to reduce the non-revenue waters to manageable levels, and we're doing the same. We're in the process of doing much the same in Greater Portmore. When you get into Kingston, with all of the Kingston and St. Andrew, with all of the multi-family units which are being constructed, there's a certain degree of what we call secondary main reinforcement that needs to happen if we are to ensure that persons with the higher density areas can get a supply. So all of that is included in our strategic master plan for the next 5 to 10 years. In terms of the West, when I was 2 Fridays ago, we actually had a groundbreaking ceremony for what is called the Western Resilience Water Project, the first phase, which will see us replacing approximately 68 kilometers of aged pipelines between Martha Bray going to Bounty Hall, Anshore, into Leaders Avenue, Montego Bay, and again from the west of Lucy all the way around to Negril. There are a number of other activities we are pursuing. So, for instance, for the smaller communities, in Palmetto Pen in Eastern May Pen, we're doing a significant amount of non-revenue water reduction there currently. We're also working on something for the Haynes, Mitchelltown, Portland Cottage area. We're doing some work also. This is probably going to go into the next financial year in the Yallas, Easington, Pamphret, Albion area. We have work doing currently in Low Ground in Turner's in Clarendon, and we're also finalizing some proposals for the area served in the Eastern St. Mary supply zone, which is served from a source just east of Anata Bay, running through Agwalta Vale all the way to Highgate and Islington. So there are a number of different measures which we are putting in place to deal with the resilience, the medium to long-term resilience in the water supply needs. We're also looking at our main impoundments in Kingston and St. Andrew. So, for instance, the Hermitage Dam is currently, we're just finalizing the tender documents now for increasing the serviceability and the design life of the Hermitage Dam. And in addition to that, we're about to procure services to look at options for increasing the storage capacity there. And that may mean increasing the height of the spillway to increase the capacity, or it may mean probably a more longer term to look at a new dam structure either above or below the current Hermitage Dam to increase storage capacity. So there are a range of things we're doing, which we anticipate, we expect will in fact make an impact on our resilience, not response, but resilience to dry season and drought conditions.
And give us an aggregate then in terms of what we expect to have in place over the next half decade, and what we expect will be in terms of the requirements over that same period of time in terms of gallons of water.
All right. The important thing is not necessarily what we produce, but how effectively and how efficiently we use what we produce. So while we expect to increase the inflows into the various communities, and when I say various communities, it's not just KSA, it is all communities island-wide. We will ensure that our water resources are sufficient for that. But what is probably more important is that we ensure that our customers understand the importance of utilizing water in an efficient way, and we ourselves have to ensure that the water loss, the water which we lose from whether commercial or physical losses, that is reduced. And we do have a non-revenue water program, an island-wide non-revenue water program, which is currently in the procurement stage, which should address that side of the equation.
But I ask because, Mr. Jackson, and I'm sure this is a usual refrain that you also receive, because a lot of people listening on YouTube just say, we've heard all this before. When are we going to actually feel a physical, meaningful change in the pattern of how we get water delivered, and not have to be always concerned about these annual drought periods where we have to be subject to lockoffs and restrictions? I think people just want a solid answer to say you can expect to see a meaningful change in this pattern at this period of time.
All right, well, let's deal with it one at a time. Kingston and St. Andrew. The 15 million gallon water treatment plant is scheduled to be completed in 24 months' time. So in 2027, the volumes of flows into Greater Spanish Town, Southeast St. Catherine, and Kingston will increase significantly. Montego Bay, and again, I don't want to really use the urban communities only, but Montego Bay, there is significant amount of work we have put in place to increase, for instance, the Martha Bray water treatment plant from its current 10 million gallons to 15 million gallons, to increase the Great River plant from 15 to 20 million gallons, And of course, there are a lot of rural communities in between which benefit from all of it. So all of those things are actually keyed up. Some of them are underway. Others of them are going through the procurement process. Some are going through the approval process, the project financing approval process, to ensure that we coordinate everything island-wide with roads, with you name it. All of these things need to be done. We're looking at...
We're out of time, but let me just put this in a solid way. 2027, as it relates to Kingston and St. Andrew and the KMTR, we should not have this discussion again, is what you're saying, Mr. Jackson.
I'm saying that we should have 15 million gallons more coming.
All right, then. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson. He's the acting president of the National Water Commission. We also have with us the principal director of the Med Service, Evan Thompson. Thank you both for joining us.
Take care and have a good evening.
The headlines are upon us.
Cover Story was brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
A minute after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Jamaica is in a drought. Principal Director of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Evan Thompson, confirmed that the country will be experiencing drought conditions for the foreseeable future.
So here we see in the period that we are currently in, going until next week, we are expecting lots of dryness, mainly over the southern part of the island. And you see that large area of reds and browns that is south of the island, but somewhat impacting on the island of Jamaica. And that's what we are expecting over the next few days. But then we are expecting the browns to continue in terms of the dryness continuing over sections of the island going through much of July. Here we have it even going into August, where we have those drier conditions that are expected to be impacting our island.
Mr. Thompson says the dry period may come to an end around October.
Some of that could change in the longer term, but of course, we're looking at the immediate future, and we're seeing that there's a lot of dryness to be expected over the island. This is going into August, but then we take a look at our 3 to 6 month outlook. And for the first 3 months, the top of our image shows us that more of the wetness should be expected toward the western half of the island, but the eastern half could still continue to experience some amount of dryness, and this is for the period July, August, and September. As we move to the lower image with October going through December, that's when we do expect to see a change. As you know, traditionally, we would have an increase in wetness or rainfall as we go through October. So we are expecting that we will have some amount of rainfall, that it will change the picture somewhat, but that is as we go toward the end of 2025.
Evan Thompson, Principal Director of the Met Service. He was speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing. Meanwhile, Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, says the government is allocating $350 million for drought mitigation efforts.
Consequent on the 3 presentations you would have just heard from the Met Service, the WRA, and the National Water Commission, I'm announcing this morning a suite of measures for drought mitigation efforts from your government of 350 million Jamaican dollars. Those measures will include $250 million, which will be executed by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, which will see trucking that will be directed through members of Parliament to the tune of approximately $150 million. It will see further trucking support to the National Water Commission of approximately $50 million to service critical infrastructure and $50 million towards additional tank purchases.
He says farmers will also benefit from a drought relief allocation.
We also expect through the Ministry of Agriculture, and I've spoken to Minister Green and he asked me to share this with you, that we will execute drought mitigation measures for our farmers to the tune of $100 million that will be shared between water, trucking, drip irrigation systems, and grass purchases. He will speak to that in greater detail later this week.
Matthew Samuda, Minister with responsibility for water. Member of the JLP's Communication Task Force, Senator Marlon Morgan, is hailing the new record low of Jamaica's unemployment rate as evidence of good stewardship by the Andrew Holness-led administration.
The Statistical Institute's latest report, along with an increase in business and consumer confidence, are the most compelling indicators yet that Jamaica is headed in the right direction. There is no government in the history of this country that can boast the record of performance and achievement in service to the Jamaican people that this Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government can boast. Our bid for the third consecutive term of office is based on our incomparable record and our plans to deliver even more for the Jamaican people in a third term of office.
The country's unemployment rate has fallen to a new record low of 3.3%. It's an improvement over the 3.7% recorded the previous quarter. Also, for the second quarter of 2025 ending in June, there was a 1.7% increase in business confidence. Consumer confidence also improved over the period by 1.4%. Senator Morgan says the positive indicators signal an increase in the vote of confidence placed in the government by Jamaicans.
Jamaica's new record low unemployment of 3.3% comes on the heels of a welcomed return to economic growth in the first quarter of calendar year 2025, following, of course, the adverse effects of Hurricane Beryl last year. It is readily understood that business and consumer confidence signal how people feel about their economy and their outlook on the future. And as such, the increase in these indicators constitute a strong vote of confidence in the government going into the upcoming general elections.
Senator Marlon Morgan, member of the JLP's Communication Task Force. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, will be introducing new inter-parish routes going as far as Kingston to Mandeville. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz made the announcement at the handing over ceremony of 93 buses to the JUTC's fleet on Wednesday.
The JUTC will be introducing several new inter-parish routes. Of the 30 new diesel buses, 15 will be dedicated to launching a new JUTC Rural Express service, offering premium travel on long-haul direct routes from Halfway Tree Centre to Negril, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Port Antonio, Mandeville with minimal stops. Just 1 or 2 per trip at an introductory fare of $2,000. So you can go from Kingston to Negril, $2,000 affordability.
The 93 buses are valued at a cost of approximately $2.3 billion. 7 other buses are being specially retrofitted for members of the disabled community. Those are set to arrive in August. Minister Vaz highlighted several other routes that will be added to the JUTC's service.
We'll be doing Montego Bay to Savlamar, Lucy to Negril, Montego Bay to Cornwall Courts, Green Pond, Montego Bay to Lucy, and other upcoming routes in the pipeline, Savlamar to White House, and Falmouth to Wakefield. The JUTC is also expanding routes out of Spanish Town with new services to Linstead via the highway, Spanish Town to Kidston Town, and extending JUTC's reach, while the 70 CNG buses will be deployed along new routes across Spanish Town Depot Corridor. I'm going to give you routes from Longville to Kingston, that's in Clarendon, Linstead to Kingston, Kidston Town to Spanish Town to Mandeville, everywhere them go. Them going to see bus after bus.
Darrell Vaz, Minister of Transport. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
Still sweating with that old fan? It's time to upgrade! Meet Glaze Glacier, the AC unit that thinks for you. Energy efficient to slash your power bill. Wi-Fi enabled so you can control it from your phone. And self-cleaning because you've got better things to do. Powerful, smart, hassle-free. Call now at 876-923-6521-3. Gaddy's Refrigeration Limited, delivering the perfect cooling solution tailored to your needs.
Back to school doesn't have to break the bank. Swap instead of shop. Join Nationwide 90 FM at our Back to School Fair on Saturday, August 9 from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Harmony Beach Park in the western city of Montego Bay. Bring those books your kids no longer need and swap them for ones they do. Plus, enjoy fun activities, entertainment, and meet your favorite Nationwide personalities. It's all happening in St. James on Saturday, August 9 from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Harmony Beach Park. See you there.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The National Stadium will have a seating capacity of 37,500 and will be 90% covered when the redevelopment work is completed in 2027-28. This was revealed at a press conference at the Sports Ministry on Wednesday, where the media was given an update on how the project's proceeding. Work is set to start next year and last for 3 years, during which time the facility will remain partially open for special events to include boys and girls champs, but on a scaled-down basis. The new stadium will also accommodate 50,000 patrons for concert-like events and will have all the trappings of a modern stadium. It will be outfitted with elevators, 30 new state-of-the-art VIP boxes, a fan boulevard, and fan zones. The stadium will also have a 9-lane track to make it World Athletics compliant. There'll also be a built-in mixed zone and a 300% increase in parking. There'll be a new tier parking facility across the road from the existing stadium car parking lot. Jonathan Seabacker, principal at Ryder Architecture, says the stadium will be comparable to the best in the world.
We're looking at a world-class stadium with a raft of world-class facilities, and that takes time. Quality takes time. This will be best in class. It's befitting of a stadium anywhere else in the world. We need to invest that time to make sure we design it properly, make sure we meet and surpass everyone's needs and expectations, and make sure it's built in accordance with all the rules and to the quality that we expect.
Seabacker also explained the rationale behind a 90% covered stadium as opposed to a fully covered one.
It's the limiting factor of retaining the existing stand. So the existing stand at Independence Park is, culturally iconic in terms of its design. It's protected from a planning perspective, and it would be wrong to knock that down. But the limitations of that current stand, if anyone's been to the stadium, will know that it doesn't cover all of the seats in that area, and that's the only part of the stadium that's uncovered.
Jonathan Seabacker from Ryder Architecture. And Sports Minister Olivia Green says the people of the country will in the end have a stadium they can be proud of.
It's an investment, athletes, it's an investment in infrastructure. We will be a world-class facility and we'll be in a position to host world-class events.
Sports Minister Olivia Grange. Jamaica's Andre Russell will retire from international cricket after the second T20 International against Australia on his home ground at Sabina Park next Tuesday. Russell was on Wednesday named in the West Indies 16-man squad for the 5-game series against the Aussies. However, he'll only play in the first 2 to coincide with his retirement at Sabina Park after the second game. Russell will then be replaced in the side by Matthew Ford for the other 3 games in St. Kitts. The 2012 and 2016 World Cup winner will end his career with 86 T20 internationals to go along with a solitary test and 56 one-day internationals. President of the Jamaica Cricket Association, Donovan Bennett, says Russell's presence will be missed.
Well, it's going to be a loss. I am disappointed because I personally think that he still had a lot to offer. But that is Andre's decision, so to make. And we have to respect that and to thank him for contributions that he has made, both to Jamaica's cricket and to West Indies, of course.
Russell will be the second high-profile player after Nicholas Pooran to call time on his career within the last 2 months. Russell had indicated before the last T20 World Cup that he would retire from the sport, but was persuaded to extend his career by coach Darren Sammy. Dr. Bennett says there's a myriad of strength that Russell possesses in his arsenal that made him one of the best limited overs cricketers in the world.
His intensity, his commitment to the cause, right? The fact that he has stuck around for so long, he's 37 years old, while other people who are much younger have pulled out of the system. You know, Andre has gone and taken a long journey. At 37, most people find at 37 that they just can't go anymore. All the various injuries, etc., has taken a toll on him. Or on people of that age. So I'm not surprised, but like I said, I'm disappointed.
Dr. Donovan Bennett, president of the Jamaica Cricket Association. President of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shallow, has come to the defense of West Indies head coach Darren Sammy as the mountain calls for the St. Lucian to be sacked following the West Indies a 3-0 test sweep against Australia. Shallow, while speaking on the Mason and Guest show in Barbados last night, stated that the criticisms have been levied upon Sammy due to his nationality, similarly to those the former all-rounder faced during his playing days for the regional team.
Darren continues to get unfair criticism because he's from a small island. And listen, some people may run from that fact, but I won't run from the fact because insularity is something that still exists in our system that I believe we need to rid of, right? Some of our former greats also mention that in the different texts that they have put out over the years. So we can't run from that. So when you unfairly criticize Darren Sammy calling for his head after his very first test series, despite an improved performance in his bowling, it could only be insularity.
Dr. Kishore Shallow, president of Cricket West Indies. Former Jamaica and West Indies fast bowler Darren Powell has a different view. He says the public reaction is nothing new and that may just simply amount to a 9-day wonder.
Ever since we lost the Gale, the Sarwans, the Shandapal, the Lara, we have seen where we were headed. West Indies were bowled out at Sabina Park some years ago for 47 runs against England with all those big names. And people chant for 2 minutes or for 9 days. And then, it was over.
Since 2000, the West Indies have played 87 tests, winning just 23. 15 of those have come against Bangladesh, Zimbabwe and Afghanistan. And according to Powell, the main focus should be placed on improving the poor technique of the Caribbean players instead of chopping and changing leadership.
Craft these guys' techniques and skills and make them better players. I don't believe it's a place where we should talk about changing anybody, because if we're changing anybody, is moving 6 to 9 or 9 to 6.
Powell also pointed out that Sammy has in the past pointed to the pitches in the region as not being conducive to the region's batters.
And we have a new coach in Darren Sammy, whom from the go was lamented on the fact that the wickets that we are playing on in the region is poor for modern day cricket and for development of players to compete against the rest of the world.
That's Darren Powell. And finally, in sports at this time, players competing in this year's Cricket West Indies Rising Stars Women's Under-19 Championship received comprehensive player development training through a specialized workshop in Trinidad and Tobago. The workshop was designed to enhance both their on-field performance and life skills development to adapt to the demands of high-level sport. Now in its 5th year under the Rising Stars banner, the tournament is one of the cornerstones of Cricket West Indies' player development pathway and regional women's cricket growth strategy as a key talent identification platform for future West Indies players. The player development workshop covered areas including sports psychology, nutrition, personal branding, social media awareness, and the protection of children's rights. Dr. Nadine Sammy, mental skills coach for the West Indies senior women's team, led the sports psychology session with a particular focus on leadership both off and on the field. Kay Lawrence Chan presented on child protection rights, drawing from her extensive experience in the field, while media personality Jason Williams and Samantha Best, they conducted sessions on managing social media. Sophia Beckford spoke on nutrition for athletes. The workshop also featured a panel discussion with current West Indies player Karishma Rangmarak, an off-spinner who made her international debut in 2019 and brings substantial experience with 90 international appearances and over 80 wickets in ODIs and T20s. The workshop represents West Indies' commitment to developing well-rounded athletes who can excel both in cricket and in life. Similar to the Women's Under-19 tournament, a dedicated day for personal player development was held in St. Kitts and Nevis for the Cricket West Indies Rising Stars Men's Under-19 Championship. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:20.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jack on my figure, dig the wall. Our Total Tools. Weed whacker figure, trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them, and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Outer Rias, 34th Live Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
You want to win? Then just bet. Bet on the game, no stress, no sweat. And win big in the Wanna Bet Just Bet promotion. Spend $1,500 or more on one Just Bet ticket and complete the entry form at promotions.supremegames.com for your chance to win. Third place gets Beats by Dre. Second place gets an iPhone 15 and AirPods Pro. And first place gets a 65-inch TV and a soundbar. Promotion runs May 16 to July 20, 2025. Grand draw July 25, 2025. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Are you looking to drive sales and build brand visibility this summer? Be a vendor at the Nationwide 90 FM Back to School Fair on Saturday, August 9 at Harmony Beach Park, Montego Bay. Families from St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and St. Elizabeth will be out in full force. And you should be too. Call us at 876-630-1210 or email sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com to secure your spot. Let's put your brand where it matters, on the ground.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Roby Ann Williams. A special good evening to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. We invite you to weigh in live in the comment section on today's Public Opinion. We turn our attention to a very disturbing news item coming out of the courts. This is the case involving a father who pleaded guilty to raping and trafficking his underage daughter and stepdaughter over several years. The man, a taxi driver, was sentenced to more than 3 decades in prison when he appeared in the Home Circuit Court on Tuesday. He was also convicted of raping another child, his neighbor, around the same time. He pleaded guilty on February 14 this year. The combined sentences for the crimes against all 3 girls total just over 100 years, but the sentences will run concurrently, which means the taxi driver will serve only the longest single sentence of 33 years and 8 months before becoming eligible for parole. The allegations, I will just say some, include claims that he transported the girls to a friend who forcibly had sex with them while he, the father, watched. In one instance, the complainant said her father and his friend took turns sexually abusing her. So in Public Opinion this evening, we're asking your reaction to the 100-year sentence of a taxi operator for raping his daughter and stepdaughter. I did say it was a very disturbing news item coming out of the courts. I'll turn my attention to our Facebook comments where Eunice Anderson is saying, why not put him to sleep? Natalie Winter is saying, look, no amount of sentence can erase what have been done. The hurt, the pain, the trauma, and the shame. Only God can change our hearts. Okay, Hepburn Davis is saying the sentence was too lenient. Simone Martin, rub on him, make sure to get eyelids and nostrils, tie both hands behind head, and leave him in a shaded tree.
A shaded area. Wow. Haley Hyman is saying he should have been put to sleep. Maxine Soleil saying it's deserving. However, no amount of time spent in incarceration can erase the pain those children feel and will have to live with. They are scarred for life. Crystal Catherine is saying right now at 200 years him should have get. Yeah? How can one father, not man, but father, commit such a grievous and heinous act on his own children, in picking them? Yeah. DJ Boba Joe is saying, or Boba Joe is saying, death penalty should be on the books. That is what he should be getting, and not 100 years. It is on the books, but yeah. Yeah. George Elliott is saying the sentence is too light just in case he lives past the sentence, and so it should be for anyone found guilty of assaulting underage girls. So it should be. He's saying the sentence is too light. Bever Baker is saying the judge did a wonderful job, but I would love it more if he or she did order his, to be cut off. He's a dangerous, wicked man. Carlington Bartley is saying, for argument's sake, let's say an animal of this nature serve his time behind bars and come back into society. What is there to warn the public of who they're living with? Tamika Robertson is saying him shouldn't be eating taxpayer money. Man like him deserve death penalty. Mark Ranger is saying, I'm not sure. Would be better. Oh, he's saying the gallows would be better. Kosi is saying not good enough. And yeah. I will reserve my comments on this one because, yeah. Your reaction to the 100-year sentence of a taxi operator for raping his daughter and stepdaughter. On Instagram, Mel Getter is saying, put 200 more years on it, plus other things I can't mention here. You and I both. 9Z rather is saying, I hope the friend is already in custody. Please find out if anyone else was involved. All parties need to be charged. I'm sure the schoolboys knew it was wrong too. Worse, they had to pay. Find everybody. Wow. The Cosmic is saying multiple head blows. Wow. Laugh Hall, why 100 years when execution would have been true justice? Anna is saying it's not enough. The 100 years for the heinous crimes that he did, not enough. Barn Rebel say, I want beat the judge for make mistake. A 300 years that did forget. Anyhow, try make the prisoner them know him crime so that they can welcome him and take good care of him. Yeah, Aubin is saying can keep him longer still. People are living longer nowadays. Katz is saying just 100 years. It should be at hard labor, i.e. work every day, and his pay go to those girls. Every asset is taken and given to them. Yeah. Should be more divine purpose, saying it should have been more than the 100. Do remember that that's the accumulated. That's what in total, that's the sentence. However, he will spend 30. Let me see if I can find it here. The sentences will be running concurrently, so he will be serving the longest of all those sentences, which is 33 years and 8 months before becoming eligible for parole. That's it. The before becoming eligible for parole. Let me see. Paul is saying he got off light. Your daughter, he got off light. Hi, boss is saying, I'm disappointed about the sentence. It should have been 1,000 years. Yeah. Shango, so if we put him in the middle of the National Stadium, tied up to a pole with enough river stone piled up, wow. Yeah, wow. The comments, but the act, Audley Davis on our YouTube is saying, wicked boy. Yeah? Wicked the boy, wicked. Jay Luma saying they will know what to do with him in prison. Wow. Can I read some of them comments here? And they're expressing exactly how, I feel. Yeah. Sandra Murray is saying, my God, those girls are scarred for life. He needs to be put away. He had no mercy, not even to his own daughter. I leave him to those men in prison. And you know, the part of the story that gets me, right? All parts of the story got me. But as a mother, for you to find a video footage of your daughter and her father sent to your daughter's phone by her father. The part of this story, like how? How? Arlene Roy is saying the sentence should run consecutively. Very rare, if any at all, we have those sentences. Yeah? Very rare. And the psychiatric evaluation or psychology, the evaluation that was done of him said that he was mentally stable at the time. David Nabar is saying electric chair. He was found to be stable at the time. Calvin Watson says this man is really wicked. Carlene, like I'll know, muda just a ball. As a mother, I don't know how. And these children who have been impacted, they need the help. They will need the help. A comment said them scar for life. They will have to live with this for the rest of their lives. And you would wonder what kind of world we are living in. But it's not the world, it's the type of people in the world. The people who we live amongst, the people who are our neighbors, the people who we take vehicle with, public transportation, we don't know, you know? Oh, Jesus. Oh, Daniel Richards is saying some things as well. I can't really repeat these things on air. But I share those sentiments. Georgia Lynn is saying, my suggestive punishment is not airworthy. This man is a threat to young girls. If he did this to his daughters, I can't imagine what he'd do to other young girls. I am winning right now saying, and the mother didn't done him and plea insanity. I feel like, yeah. Valmax saying the men he used to traffic them too should get 50% of the sentence same way. They are predators as well. Yeah. Armin is saying painful. Yeah. When I saw the story this morning, I like my neck stiffen up. Like me not telling a lie, the neck stiffen up. Just like to read the story in detail and to see and to have that in the paper, man. Yeah. Latoya is saying, I'm a part of the church. We too silent. Me turn idiot. We need to come out about this, we the church, cause the sentence not right. Donovan Phillips saying, that's not a father, he's a wicked devil. Yeah. Philip Jackson, enough blessings to you, my dear. Yeah. Dwight Bonner saying his sentence will run concurrently. That's what the court says. Yeah, which means he will serve the longest of all the sentences before becoming eligible for parole. It should have been really 100 year for true. It should have been really 100 year for true, says Gladys Brown. Yeah? He is not a human, says McCule. Yeah. Orintha Campbell saying, and these people, they want to carry our children. Is not even, I see people looking at the fact to say that he's a taxi man. But he's a human being. Yeah, I'm just saying. Separate from him being a taxi man, you know? This is a man. So, yeah. I don't think we should really. Yes, his occupation is a taxi man. I get that. But he was the father of these children, his daughter, his stepdaughter, and a neighbor. Yeah? Yeah. Nevis saying you have to send a signal. Wicked persons are everywhere, saying Carlene Smith. And that's what I'm getting at. So, you know, it's not to say that he's a taxi man. No, wicked people they all about. Wicked people they beside of you. Wicked people they behind of you. Guys, thank you so much for participating in Public Opinion. This was a heavy one. I can only imagine the mother, the family, the relatives of these children. And I'm just saying, get help for them, you know? Get help for them. Thank you so much for participating in Public Opinion. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, industrial automation and control solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:35.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household, and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Canada will restrict tariff-free import of cheap foreign steel to help domestic manufacturers reeling from levies imposed by the U.S. That's according to Prime Minister Mark Carney. Speaking at a news conference in Ontario, Carney also pledged to diversify its trading partners away from the U.S. and prioritize the use of Canadian steel. The announcement comes in the wake of punitive tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump, first a 25% levy on Canadian steel in March, later doubling it to 50% in June. On Tuesday, the Prime Minister raised the possibility that U.S. tariffs may remain in place even after a bilateral agreement. In the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 161 Jamaican dollars and 26 cents to buy $1 US, 214 Jamaican dollars and 73 cents to buy $1 British pound, and 118 Jamaican dollars and 9 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Want to reduce your high electricity bills? Then Peak Energy has the solution for you. From grid-tied to hybrid solar inverters with full lithium-ion battery pack. Installation and maintenance packages available. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hill, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Calling all businesses. Nationwide 90 FM's Back to School Fair is heading to Harmony Beach Park, Montego Bay on Saturday, August 9. And your brand should be there. With families from St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and St. Elizabeth expected to attend, it's the perfect chance to connect directly with back to school shoppers. Contact us at sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com or call 876-630-1210 to book your vendor space today.
Is your money idling when it could be thriving? With CIBC Caribbean's fixed deposit offering, you can take charge of your cash. With 50,000 Jamaican to start, choose terms from 30 days to 2 years. Lock in your funds and enjoy premium rates guaranteed to grow your wealth. Whether you're eyeing short or long-term gains, our fixed deposit account puts you firmly in control of your money. Now is the time to open a CIBC fixed deposit account and start earning more today. CIBC, ambitions made real.
Getting ready for school is as easy as KB. Shop at Kingston Bookshop between July 14 to September 6, 2025 for your chance to win big in our back-to-school promotion. Spend just $5,000 before GCT, shop online or in-store, and you could win $150,000 in cash, an HP laptop, or a Samsung Galaxy Tab A9. It's back to school the easy way, only at KB. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It is now time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. Worker retention has long been a persistent issue in Jamaica. The loss has mostly been felt across the health and education sectors as teachers and healthcare workers migrate for better paying jobs. But manufacturers are also feeling the pinch. Local business leaders say more of their skilled staff are being lured away by better paying jobs and opportunities, both locally and internationally.
Chairman of the Wisynco Group, William Mafood, says the unwillingness of younger workers to fill lower posts, as well as the migration of skilled laborers, is the reason for the poor retention rates.
called the younger, less skilled workforce, the retention levels are very, very low. And so we constantly have to be hiring people like forklift drivers and truck drivers and order pickers and warehouse delivery men, etc., in order to keep them trained and developed and a pool of these people. Then on the very high end, which is highly skilled technical people, engineers, machine operators, etc., those are actually the areas where it's very, very difficult to find. It's a limited pool. A lot of those have been lured overseas. Jamaican engineers are working all over the world now in various capacities, and so we've lost a lot of that very, very high skilled pool as well.
That's William Mafood. He's the chairman of the Wisynco Group. Well, speaking at a panel discussion on consumer and business confidence on Tuesday, CEO of Hardware and Lumber Limited, Sudu Ramani, shared that many skilled Jamaicans prefer working at call centers where the pay is more attractive.
The labor pool is not so much at the high end as the low end in retail, which is where the bulk of our staffing is. And at the retail level, the attrition rate is really high. When you have call centers and all these people sucking people in at salaries more than what we can afford, it's a constant push to try and retain talent at that level. And, customer experience suffers when you're not able to retain the right talent at the store level.
That's Sudu Ramani. He's the CEO of Hardware and Lumber Limited. Well, the CEO of Kingston Wharves Limited, Mark Williams, says his company has to resort to future-proof retention policies to keep trained workers.
What we do is to invest heavily in training. We work with the local institution, Caribbean Maritime University, HART, NTA. Okay. The challenge is to retain them. So we would ask the original equipment manufacturers, they would send their technical people to train them. Once they get certification, then they're off to Canada. So that's the issue. So again, it's for HR to ensure that we have a very robust retention policy. Right.
Well, to discuss this further, we are now going to be joined by President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Wayne Chen, and CEO of National Rooms of Jamaica Limited, Martha Miller, as well as the roaming CEO of the Muslim Group, Jeffrey Moss Solomon. Good evening, rather.
Good evening, all.
Hi, good evening, all.
Good evening to all of you. Let's start with you, Wayne Chen. I mean, a lot of people are just going to say the simple answer is pay people more, but I'm assuming the solution is not just as straight cut as that.
Well, the fact is, in a way, it is as simple as that. We have, for the first time, such low unemployment. I believe it was announced in the last day or two that we are now at 3.3% unemployment rate.
That's correct.
Or the economists will tell you we were virtually at full employment. which means for the first time in my living memory, which spans back to the time of independence, is that there is so much power in the hands of the worker in terms of creating their own economic future. Paradoxically, it's also at a time when the Jamaican workforce has a skills level of only around 40%. In other words, only about 40% of the workforce in Jamaica are people with certified skills. So the opportunity certainly is in upskilling our workforce, and that filters down to the individual. So an individual now who is highly competent, highly productive, has specialized marketable skills, can certainly move up very quickly because the demand is there. Enterprises want better trained, better skilled, to include soft skills, more productive people, because that is what adds value to any enterprise. So, yes, for the first time, the balance of power is really in the hands of individuals now to train themselves up, find marketable skills, and really put themselves out there, including in the global market. The BPO sector is plugged into the global market, and many Jamaicans outside of the big Sutherland Globals and so of the world have plugged into the virtual economy and are selling their skills virtually. So it's an exciting time now, but at the same time scary, because we are now competing not just locally but globally with other economies where the costs are lower. So even in our BPO sector, we are competing against Bangladesh, we're competing against the Philippines, we're competing against other locations. And similarly, in another important sector here, in hospitality, we are competing with the DR, the Dominican Republic. We are competing with Cancun, where the drive is for lower cost, more efficiencies, and so on. So we really have to be on top of our game now. So it's exciting, it's full of possibilities, but it's also full of potential hazards for the power job market.
And Martha Miller, do you find that employees are now looking just directly at the salaries and benefits and not so much on career development or workplace environment?
So I think that it's like you said, it's an interesting time that we're in. I think that salaries are going to attract. Salaries are definitely going to attract, but salaries will not keep most people. I find that maybe 20% of the staff are going to stay or move because of a salary. They will all complain about their salary, but will they actually leave because of their salary? No. What you find is very important. Is quality of life for them is very important. When they come to work, do they feel appreciated? Do they feel empowered? Are they being trained? Do they see, not necessarily in my age, I started working 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. And at that time, you were looking at a career. Young people are not looking at a career, but they're looking at what can they get from where they are for as long as the 5 years that they're maximum willing to give you, if you're lucky. Right? So to keep them for that over the 2-year, over the 5-year period, it's about empowerment, it's about training, it's about making them feel like they're contributing to the business. That's important.
And Jeffrey Solomon, as someone who oversees a diverse group of companies, are you seeing a generational shift in employee expectations that sometimes will affect retention?
Definitely, Sanjay. Thank you. And thanks for having me on. I see the societal changes going now. Like social media is glorifying, you never see anybody posting their factory job or their, regular job on social media. So it's painting a picture that those jobs are not valuable anymore. So, the younger people coming up now are not seeking to do any of those jobs and are not being told of the benefits or the satisfaction that you can get out of those jobs. So with a lot of the young people, we're seeing that they're just not willing to also endure hardship or delay gratification. We're going into a world of instant gratification and we must not endure any hardship. So Wayne had mentioned call centers. Call centers are not only an attractive option because of the pay, but also because of the type of work, because it's in an office, in a cool environment. It's not dirty and greasy like factory work or something like that. So the young people of today are just kind of not finding it. It's not cool. It's not sexy to do those jobs anymore. So it's just hard to retain them. And in addition to that, social and the job aspect of it, there's also some national issues like crime, transport availability that prevent people from doing things on shift at odd times, working different hours. So it's a multi-pronged situation right now.
Let me put it to you then, Mr. Marsalomo. How does a company such as the Mawson Group work around these issues to ensure that they have the people they need? Because, as you said, there are the issues of time, the ability to attract the workers themselves, and the other attendant concerns. What are the strategies that your company puts in place?
Well, obviously we do, comparisons of compensation to see where we're at on the scale versus local, regional, and overseas. We do the usual, trying to have a collaborative environment, fostering a learning environment, very frequent check-ins on workers. It has moved to leaders and management to really have to devote much more time to the well-being of employees and care and all of that. And that is on the skill level, on the higher level. On the lower level, what we have done, sadly, is also lower our expectations and our standards, because in previous years, an employee who was consistently 20 minutes late or half an hour late would lose their job. But now you're like, this guy is okay because at least he comes every day, so we're going to put up with it. So there's a situation of changing our expectations on that level. But generally, we just try and, as Martha said, focus as well on the non-compensational based aspects of the work to see that those are actually the best.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Sanjay.
Right. So, Wen-Chen, looking on, we have heard individuals suggest to look outside of Jamaica to see how we can fill that gap. One individual suggests looking to Haiti. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I have long been an advocate to opening up our market to Haitian workers. I've been at that at least for the last 15 years. The fact is that Haiti is a member of CARICOM. It is a member of the CSME. We are talking within the CSME about free movement of people. Jamaica has benefited tremendously from this free movement of people. And when I say Jamaica, Jamaican workers. If you go to Trinidad, from Trinidad to St. Kitts, you will see Jamaican workers. Cayman is not a part of the CSME, but the Jamaican workers are the largest expatriate group in Cayman. Same in the Bahamas. So there's no doubt in my mind, but that's a harder sell locally because of politics, that free movement of skills, including unskilled, but free movement of the willing, let me put it that way, benefits, there's a mutual benefit to all economies. The fact is that life is what really happens while we're busy making other plans. There are already Haitian workers in Jamaica, I have heard anecdotally. If you go to Western Jamaica, especially in Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. James, you'll find Haitian workers working in agriculture. You'll find Haitian workers working in construction. I hear the same thing is happening in the eastern part of the island. So I don't think I'm telling any secret here. What we need is an orderly program that will allow foreign workers to come into Jamaica to take up jobs where enterprises need workers but can't find them locally. We have done this in the area of construction. Many of the new buildings in the hotel sector in particular employed, the most visible are Chinese, but we have had workers from the DR, we have had workers from Mexico, we have had workers from elsewhere coming to Jamaica on a temporary basis to fill the gap, because it is clear that our economy has a shortage of skills at all levels. So we have to have a frank and transparent discussion around that. On another issue that you raised earlier about the shifting generations, different generations have different worldviews, different time horizons, different expectations in the world of work. One of the things that we suffer from in Jamaica is that people like me, a baby boomer, makes policies for Gen Zers and Gen Xers who may have a totally different worldview, and we want the world to conform to what we would like, rather than understand what the aspirations of younger generations are, and get out of the way in, lend our experience, but allow them to reshape the world in their own image and their own aspirations. I say it in a general way, but this is where we have to engineer a smooth transition from generation to generation as employers.
And Martha, I want to bring you in here because there's an aspect that you touched on during the Jamaica Business, the JCC Consumer and Business Confidence Survey report that I don't think a lot of us talk about, and that's a matter of location. You pointed out that there are a lot of Jamaicans, particularly the younger generation, who do not really wish to work outside of the major cities. How do we now go about addressing that? Because we can't necessarily always have all of our enterprise and businesses just concentrated in the two areas of Montego Bay and Kingston.
Yes. I wish I had the answer. I really do. That I wouldn't have the challenge that I have. But I mean, if we bring people in, it's all about making them up, trying to sell to them the benefit of the experience that they're going to get. Right? What we do, so at National Loans, we have our foundation. At NRJ, we have the foundation. And what we're trying to do is trying to focus on people that come from that area. So we're focusing on scholarships, STEM scholarships, for people that live in that area. Because the truth is, the people that come from the area like living in the area many times. And they will come for the jobs if they have the right skills. So it's a matter of gearing the individuals, the schools in the area to fill the jobs of the companies in those environments. And I think that's one of the key things we need to do. But other than that, it's difficult. Somebody that normally lives in Kingston does not want to drive to be in the depth of the cane fields in Clarendon. They're not going to do it.
And I can see the challenge there. But I suppose if the emolument is attractive enough, you can well and truly tempt somebody to do what is necessary in terms of take up that position. But I think there's a lot of Jamaicans who want to know, or maybe it's just dependent on the area of the market, or is the skill level. But many Jamaicans are saying, well, if there's such a shortage of labor and there is a clear need for more workers, why is the pay not going up?
Well, it's a matter of productivity. I can't pay more just because you're demanding more if you're not producing and more productive. Right? It doesn't suit the business to operate in that manner. Right? You have to drive value from whatever you're investing in. And investment in talent means that we must be getting the productivity from the talent. And paying more, unfortunately, does not mean we get more they're more productive. That's the challenge that we face.
And from a governmental perspective, Mr. Masolomon, what's that one thing you believe the government must do immediately to really help to improve Jamaica's worker retention outlook?
Well, sadly, it's not one thing, but definitely address the transport situation. I think that is really, really, really a reason why people don't want to come out. They end up wasting an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening coming, and people are becoming much more focused on family life and their children's welfare. And many times some people are opting to not work to deal with their children. We have to focus on crime. A lot of people don't feel safe to work on shifts and do those things. But one interesting thing that I would point out is that now, with all that's happening in the States, I believe that we should be creating more incentives for returning residents, to counter this flow, because there are many people who I'm aware of in the US, especially right now, who would like to come home. And we need to create maybe some tax incentives, housing incentives, some real reasons for us to get this talent to come back now, because they're realizing that socially, life in the US is lacking in some ways. So we need to kind of market that Jamaica is still nice place to live and we want you to come back. And I feel like if the government did that, it would help to counter the issue of migration.
Right, sounds good. And I'm giving the same question to you, to Martha. What do you think?
What could the government do? I think Jeffrey has a good idea. Outside of, somehow they can be compensated so that they can continue to make their ends meet and feel comfortable to resettle. You know, because it can't only be the private sector trying to drive more money and pay more money. It has to be something to encourage them to come home.
And Wayne
It has
Chen?
to be something to encourage them to come home.
Thank you.
Really, two things. We have to drive the digital transformation, not for its own sake, but to improve productivity. Because sustainably better working conditions and higher real wages will only come with sustained productivity improvements. And we have to look where the rest of the world is going. I mean, I recently spent 3 weeks in South Korea, and you're driving to a service station, a gas station. There's no human. You go into a fast food place, everything is on a big screen. You touch what you want. The only humans are really there to actually operate the stove. We can't build an economy on low skills, low wages. It doesn't meet our economic aspirations, and it certainly does not meet the individual aspirations of new generations of Jamaicans. So we have to drive upskilling, and we have to drive the digital transformation.
That is Wayne Chen. He's the president of the Jamaica Employers Federation. We were also joined by CEO of National Rums of Jamaica Limited, Martha Miller, and the roaming CEO of the Muslim Group, Jeffrey Moss Solomon. Thank you all for joining us. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we have this discussion about this topic, especially as things continue. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity. All the best.
Have a good evening. More after this break, listeners.
The NHT has boosted construction loan limits to 11 million for one applicant and up to 23 million for 3 co-applicants. We are building Jamaica.
The time by the office of the Prime Minister is...
It's 7:01.
Why rush around town for back-to-school shopping? Nationwide 90 FM is making it easy at our back-to-school fair. Come get your child measured for uniforms, check their shoe size, and purchase essentials right there on the spot. St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth. We've got everything in one place just for you. That's Saturday, August 9, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Harmony Beach Park, Montego Bay. The Nationwide 90 FM Back to School Fair.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony at 61 Hagley Park Road. Through the Local Economic Development Support Program, over $10 million will be awarded to 250 grassroots entrepreneurs in sectors such as health and wellness, food and agro-processing, art, craft, fashion, and more. Join us as we celebrate Jamaica's entrepreneurial spirit during Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Social Development Commission.
The following is a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
The Jamaica Labour Party Area Council 1 presents Central Kingston Choose Jamaica public meeting this Sunday, July 25 p.m. at the intersection of Hitchin and Great George's Street in Allman Town. Deputy Leader Desmond McKenzie and host Member of Parliament Donovan Williams will be on the road with champion MPs Darrell Vaz, Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Delroy Chuck, Delroy Williams, Dwayne Smith, Senators Abka Fitz-Henley, Shireen Golding Campbell and others. Come hear messages of substance as the Jamaica Labour Party's mission to improve lives is active and strong. Choose Jamaica public meeting this Sunday, 5 p.m. in Allman Town, Central Kingston. No worry, Impact Boss Donovan Williams understands. Donovan cares. No sellout to him thing. We choose Jamaica.
'cause I know them seats here than a van place.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
The Watchman. Exploring issues shaping our society, government, and business. Provocative, unconventional. Dr. Henley Morgan is The Watchman.
Good evening. The JLP's rocky relationship with CARICOM. In preparing today's commentary, I called Ambassador Byron Blake, former Deputy Permanent Representative of Jamaica to the United Nations and former Assistant Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. I wanted to know if Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness's assumption of the chairmanship of CARICOM is an indication that the JLP's rocky relationship with the Caribbean's main intergovernmental organization has finally healed. His response was quick. No, one cannot draw such a conclusion. He explained that the chairmanship was not an appointment based on the office holder's merit or reputation of advocacy in support of CARICOM. It is rotational, and it had become Jamaica's turn to assume the chairmanship. It is reasonable for one to wonder whether Dr. Holness can comfortably play the role of being the face of Caribbean integration when the political party he leads has a well-earned reputation for being ambivalent in its support of CARICOM, especially on matters relating to trade policy. To put the divide between the JLP and what has come to be termed regionalism in context, one must go back to the early 1960s and the role the party played in the demise of the federal experiment, which had as its goal West Indian countries and territories moving toward political and economic integration to enhance development and growth in the region. The following retort at the time by the late Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Eric Williams, aptly describes the mortal wound to the movement caused by Jamaica's withdrawal. 1 from 10 equals 0. The dissolution of the West Indies Federation was followed by establishment of the Caribbean Free Trade Area, CARIFTA, and in July 1973 by CARICOM upon signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. The changes notwithstanding, stagnation has become a feature of Caribbean integration. The West India Commission, chaired by the late Sir Srinath Ramphal, was established to foster greater cooperation between countries of the Caribbean. The Commission's 1992 report titled A Time for Action proposed 2 important actions: creation of the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, CSME, and the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ. Crucial recommendations of the West India Commission have not found favor with political parties such as the JLP, which eventually formed their respective countries' government. To be fair to the JLP, the party has consistently made its support for CARICOM known. For example, an article which appeared in the July 9, 2021 edition of The Gleaner stated the party's position. I quote in part, "The JLP supports the principles of CARICOM and the need for regional economies to work together on issues that can lead to the strengthening of and protection of individual and collective country efforts." End quote. The article, however, went on to raise the JLP's concern about Jamaica's continued membership in CARICOM due to trade issues within the CARICOM arrangement which in its opinion puts Jamaica at a disadvantage. Any discomfort or uneasiness that PM Holness may feel on assuming the chairmanship of a body with which his party has such sharp differences will last only 6 months until the next meeting of heads of CARICOM. Just long enough to bolster his image as the quintessential Caribbean man in the run-up to the upcoming general elections. Think on these things.
Produced by Agency for Inner City Renewal, AIR, and recorded in the Jamming Studio Trenchtown, a breath of fresh air bringing change to the inner city.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're going to take your calls a little later, but before that, we still have some business to attend to overseas in the United States, where the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has deported 5 migrants, including a Jamaican man, to Eswatini, a small African kingdom. The men were described as barbaric by Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin due to their serious crimes, including murder and child rape. The Jamaican man was convicted of murder, robbery, and possession of a weapon.
Deportation is part of the Trump administration plan to expand its third country deportation program, which allows for deportation to countries without guarantees of safety from a persecution or torture. Well, to discuss the implications of Trump's policy, we're now joined by immigration attorney Opal Lee, managing director of Caribbean Immigrant Services. And that's Erwin Clare, and we also have Dr. Karen Dunkley, who is a social commentator. Let's begin with, good afternoon, or I should say good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having Nancy and your listeners.
Good evening to you all.
Thank you. Let me start with Opal Lee. From a legal standpoint, how does the U.S. justify deporting individuals to a third country, especially one that these individuals would have no prior connection to?
Here's the thing, and you're absolutely right in asking that question. But what the Trump administration has made it clear is that they're doing so as long as the third countries have promised to make sure that they're doing or they're acting on a humanitarian basis, meaning they're making sure that they're not persecuting the people who are actually removed there, and they're basically saying that they're going to be under those controls. So this is an agreement that they have made with those countries, and the countries have made it clear that there are not going to be any situations or the people that are removed there are not going to be unfairly treated, in their words.
But tell us openly, is there no kind of protection as even as an illegal immigrant, as a migrant to another country, that for whatever reason you run afoul of the law, shouldn't you be deported back to your country of origin?
Absolutely, and that's something. And I know that this is going to be challenged. And by the way, this was really challenged. And just recently, the Supreme Court said, no, let the Trump administration go there as long as there are certain safeguards. And one of the things was, they're saying once the people are removed to these countries, that these countries are now going to be responsible for them, and they're basically saying that they're not going to be mistreated.
But that matters. But that matter of them not being required to return to their countries of origin, that matter is fine with the Supreme Court in the United States, meaning that is not a requirement.
They are.
Interesting.
They have given the Trump administration the green light to go ahead and do so. And the thing that we need to understand, there are certain countries that, for one reason or the other, they do not want to take back their citizens. And so what the Trump administration is saying is that, okay, why should the United States have these people indefinitely here, where their own country, where they're from, does not want to take them back? And so what the Trump administration has done, has made agreements with these other countries, which we are now realizing they're using mostly African countries, who they could make some agreements. Some of them, they've actually gotten payments And I mean, later on, we can talk about the big, beautiful bill that was passed because there's a lot of money that has now been put aside to facilitate things like this. And so these countries now, for one way or the other, they're going to want to appeal to the president or to this administration, and they will go ahead and say, you know what, we will host those people because their countries don't want them. We can go ahead and keep them. So it's a little bit more. And another thing, it's going to make it more faster for the administration to get these people out. Because, for example, let's say someone is, saying that they're claiming Jamaican citizenship, and they have made contact with the U.S. consulate, and this person said, I don't have my Jamaican passport. I'm not from Jamaica. But the administration believe they're from Jamaica. They have applied to the Jamaican consulate, and the Jamaican consulate is delaying in providing these travel documents. Here you can have one of these other countries that are saying we will take them, and within maybe 6 hours or less, that person could be removed from the United States. And so this is why the administration is going after these other countries and trying to make arrangements with them or agreements with them to go ahead and facilitate faster, speedier removals.
And I'd like to bring in Erwin Clare at this point. Does this not have some convention or treaty or some form of international law when on the part of a country? Can a country suggest to another country that it will not take in its own citizens? It will not repatriate its own citizens, I should say.
Well, yes, it has. It all depends on the diplomatic relationships that country may have with the United States. But I think here, though, the biggest situation that have my concern is that if we have a Jamaican national that has been deported to, I call it Swaziland, whatever it's called now, the question then begs itself, did Jamaica refuse him coming back to Jamaica? Because I know that the present administration under Prime Minister Holness has made it clear that they'll take back their nationals. So my question I'm concerned about, because if this is so, then I'm concerned about other cases that may come up where we have Jamaican nationals being sent to other countries. And when they are sent to other countries, yes, the countries may say they will take care of them, but that's a relative term. A country like the country to which this Jamaican national is sent to does not rank high on the Richter scale as relates to human rights. So, so the question then begs itself is that I would like to ask the question, did Jamaica refuse this gentleman from being repatriated?
But could it go back to what Opal Lee had suggested, Erwin Clare, that maybe this gentleman, he didn't have the necessary documentation, this country will accept them until that particular document that they need to travel to Jamaica is ready and presented to them.
And those are the questions that need to be answered, because if the United States is identifying him as a Jamaican, all right, then something is amiss here. There's a lot more to this story that may be available to us as we speak. Right. But to go back to your question, the whole situation of international conventions. Well, we live in a world today where the United States, as its president, gets what he wants. The Supreme Court allows him to do so. The Supreme Court allows him to make deals with countries. If you might recall, earlier in the year, there were countries in the Caribbean who were asked that very same question, whether or not they'd be willing to take nationals of other nations. And I think Grenada was one of such countries that said no, and other countries in the Caribbean said no. So that is the order of the day today. That's not something that is new, but it is new right now for my Jamaican national who now finds himself in another country. And I just want to make sure that if a person presents himself as a Jamaican, that the whole process is vetted quickly before we have a situation as the one we have right now. Because we're going to have to find ways to bring our national back home, one way or another.
Mm-hmm. And let me bring in Dr. Dunkley in the conversation from a sociocultural perspective now. How should we interpret this practice of deporting Caribbean nationals to unfamiliar African nations?
I think definitely that our panelist, Erwin, has addressed that. Good afternoon to you again. I think from a sociocultural perspective, We have an administration that has been given the legal license of their share that the appeal was overturned, it's now sanctioned, that they can do third-party deportation. And I think we have to look at the implications for the broader immigration conversation, right? So we've heard a little bit about the legal and the humanitarian concerns. But basically, we see a shift in immigration where there is a hard line that is being applied to when immigrants run afoul of the U.S. law. And I think that we have to interpret it that America is simply stating that this country no longer views its immigrant residents, whether they're legal or they are undocumented, as full residents and participants into the life and into the rights of that are granted to American citizens. And that is how we need to think about it. There can be no mistake that the immigration debate is polarized. And also, I think, as Erwin and the attorney intimated, we have to have now explicit engagement to bring Jamaican nationals home. We know from a legal perspective, and the attorney, you can correct me, my understanding is that Jamaica cannot unilaterally retrieve the citizen because the action was initiated by the United States. But we now need some level of diplomatic engagement to advocate and to influence for the Jamaican citizens to be repatriated to Jamaica and not dumped, because it is a dumping on a third-party country, especially with questionable human rights practices.
And that's where I would like to bring you back in, Opal Lee. I mean, in these circumstances, in the specific cases of Jamaicans being sent to a third country, who are we now negotiating with to get our residents back to Jamaica? Is it the U.S. government or the third country?
Here it is, and that's a very good question, because what they're basically saying, or what the administration is saying, is that once the people have departed, and they've actually told the Supreme Court that they're now going to be in that country's hands. As a matter of fact, they're basically saying once the person is removed from the United States, it's going to now be respective about the domestic laws and international obligations. So for that country, we have seen here where another country that this happened to, they're basically saying, well, the people who are removed are still going to be under the U.S. Government or the U.S. obligation or control. And the Supreme Court said, wait a minute now, hold up, that's not what we were told. So I think that might be some little room to have it being challenged some more, because as far as they're saying, the Trump administration is saying, once a person leaves, it's now going to be based on that domestic laws. So Jamaica would now have to reach out to that African country and try to get their citizen back to Jamaica. But I should make it clear, the United States has also stated that they remove aliens to a country where they would not face persecution. So if they believe the person was going to face persecution, they're saying, but that's just what they're saying, that they wouldn't have removed it.
And attorney, the bar has been very low for them to prove. There's been no site visits. There's been no true investigation. As Erwin said, the countries have ranked very high on human rights violation scale.
Then Erwin Claire, though, isn't this a very messy turn of affairs, so to speak? Because what about in situations where there's not necessarily a diplomatic connection between Jamaica? I don't know what the diplomatic connection between Jamaica and Eswatini is, but what if we're in a situation where we have no diplomatic or direct diplomatic tie to that country? Are residents or citizens just left in limbo?
Well, that's what it would appear. I still believe that the United States has responsibility in this, because if we do find out that this gentleman was sent there erroneously, the onus would be on the United States, and I have to believe that there be grounds on which that would be challenged. But that's the world we live in today. And whereas there may be recourse, this is not a recourse that is not something you get up and do. It is very costly. It requires significant resources. And when you consider that there are so many issues out there, it overwhelms the situation. And that's why this particular situation here requires immediate response from our government to ascertain whether or not this gentleman was sent there erroneously or not. Because the world habit is that, hey, this person was denied entry from his country, and he's a bad, barbaric person, so, and even the country don't want him, so we have to send him to some African nation. That's the perception out there. Read the news article. This is not good. So I'll be asking my country, please, let's find out what are the facts here. What is really taking place? Of course, there are also other conspiracy theories on this too. Because if you realize that the amount of persons who have now been incarcerated, you said upwards of 70% are there for civil matter. They're not the barbaric type that these 5 people are being made out to be. So I don't know, is this part of the charade? I don't know. But I'm curious. Let us find out why our Jamaican national is in Africa. And it's not to say that he did not commit a crime that was heinous. It's not about that. It's about the process.
Openly, I want to hear you on this one. Do these third country deportation, do they violate any international asylum or human rights protocol, especially when safety and due process, they are in question?
And that's the key. If it is found out that due process or that they're likely to be persecuted in those countries, then of course we can see where, it's going to be definitely challenged. But for right now, as I said, the administration is holding strong on saying that they're not taking anyone, or they're not making any arrangements with these countries that are likely to persecute the people that are removed there. But you know what? We will see. And I'm pretty sure people are going to be watching like hawks and to see how these people are going to be treated. But you know what? It depends on the country that they're going to and how open are they going to be, where, it's going to be where people will be able to see and monitor what's really going on. Sometimes I remember that guy that was removed, and we just want to see if there was even life. How do we know if those people are still alive?
And that's my final question to you, Dr. Karen Dunkley. When these people are deported, they're not deported with criminal records. It's under the understanding that since they've committed no crime in the country they've arrived in, they're a free citizen, essentially. What happens to them now that they've touched ground in a different country? What are the principles that are being applied here?
As far my understanding is that these persons are treated as criminals. Because then these countries are the holders in Latin America, the Middle East, or Africa, which I'm very curious, by the way, that no European country was asked to take in such individuals, but I will not digress. The understanding is that they will have to abide under the incarceration offices of these countries. They're not treated as fair individuals at all. They don't have any legal status, so they're really left in legal limbo. You see what is happening to individuals who are born in like circumstances, so they're not able to have access to health care. They cannot move about freely. They're not granted legal residency or asylum. And so they have no ties or network. These individuals have no family, community, or connections in these third countries, no legal status. They're completely socially and culturally isolated, and they will be treated as foreigners and complete cultural misfits. Who goes to Eswatini, a.k.a. formerly Swaziland? You are Caribbean, or wherever you've come from, you have no connection. And so we have to begin to think about the psychological trauma, the disorientation, the identity crisis, the emotional impact, and this increased, quite frankly, risk of exploitation and violence. There's a vulnerability of them being criminals, being victims of criminals, or corrupt officials. We just don't know. And quite frankly, it does not appear as if there is, in the current way that this law third-party deportation is taking place, that they have any legal recourse. There is no legal recourse if they're abused. There seems to be no path to justice, or quite frankly, remigration. So again, the call to action, Erwin said it, the lawyer said it, I'll be brief. We need Jamaica to either advocate, intervene, and influence, to speak to Eswatini to see if we could bring our nationals home wherever they may be or they may land.
I think it's important to point out that in that very country, the king appoints judges and the king has veto powers to remove those judges. The press and the media are largely under royal influence, and journalists face restrictions and censorship. Political parties are banned. There's a lot about that country. But just before we go, Erwin Clare, I want to give you the final words. What's the mood like among Caribbean immigrants in the United States on hearing news such as this that came to the fore?
And that is why I started where I did, because it's a matter of great concern. Because if this Jamaican today, tomorrow, who will it be? Which other country will find our nationals being sent to? And I understand it. And Dr. Dunkley correctly said it. The infrastructure for support doesn't exist there. It's just like, and Opal will agree here. It's just like when a person is picked up here and they're picked up in New York and sent to Louisiana. Who's down in Louisiana? It's the same thing. You're sent through the system and frustrated because you're sent to places where there are no support mechanisms. Now, the point I want to bring out is that I'm just a bit alarmed that to date we have not heard the United Nations chime in on this, because this, I believe, has to go back to some human rights convention as relates to how we deal with other persons' nationals. This is more than just a deportation matter between the United States and to a third-party country. This has implications, far-reaching implications, and this is something that our community and CARICOM has to address. If we are accepting our nationals, there must be a mechanism to fast-track it and not allow our nationals to go to places of the sort, because it only requires kind of resources that we already complaining we don't have.
I know I said it was my final question, but what Dr. Dunkley brought up to me did raise another question to me that I feel it's very important and I need some clarification. Opal Lee, these people have served sentences in the United States. They have now been set for deportation to another country to serve an additional sentence?
I am glad. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't want to interrupt, because that's exactly it. I want to make it clear when they're saying that these people are criminals. If, and that's a big if, because there's a lot of people who are being removed, their only violation is civil violations, meaning they have overstayed their time or entered unlawfully. But let's say they did have some criminal violation. These people have already served their time. They've already done their time.
Exactly.
For them to even be brought over into the federal side of things with the immigration is because they've completed their state sentence. And so it is wrong, it is so improper to have these people do a double whammy, if you want to call it that, and another sentence. So I'm absolutely, positively upset about this, and I believe that the UN nations, and they should really, really step in, because this is wrong. And so the government, for these people, the origin, they really have to step in and get their people, because sometimes the family, they just don't have the money. It's very limited. I mean, I'm working with so many immigration with so many immigration clients, and I know they're feeling it. They're really feeling it. The families are trying, and it's very difficult when there are all these other things, obstacles, that they now have to be jumping. And now we're talking about going all the way to Africa. Just imagine the cost of trying to go there to fight to bring their family back home to Jamaica.
This is definitely a matter I believe that we need the government and the Foreign Affairs Ministry to weigh in on. Thank you so much, Immigration Attorney Opal Lee. And we also have with us Managing Director of the Caribbean Immigrant Services, Erwin Clare, and educator and social commentator, Dr. Karen Dunkley. Thank you all for joining us. Definitely need to hear from our own government as to what is happening in this case. And I see someone asking if the individual in question is a confirmed Jamaican. Well, the U.S. State Department referred to it. the U.S. Department of Homeland Security referred to him as a Jamaican man. So they must have some record of him being Jamaican, or he himself has identified himself as being Jamaican for them to make that assertion. We'll take a break, listeners, and then we come back with your calls. Now, the numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255.
Please be advised that on Sunday, July 20, the Mayor's Parlour will air at 12 p.m. This will temporarily replace the usual broadcast of Amazing Word at that time. We apologize for any inconvenience.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony at 61 Hagley Park Road. Through the Local Economic Development Support Program, over $10 million will be awarded to 250 grassroots entrepreneurs in sectors such as health and wellness, food and agro-processing, art, craft, fashion, and more. Join us as we celebrate Jamaica's entrepreneurial spirit during Cliff Hughes Online Thursday, July 17 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Special Entrepreneurship Grants Presentation Ceremony. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Social Development Commission.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. As I said, we're taking your calls to numbers 630-937-124 and 618-8255. You see, I see a lot of good questions being asked in the YouTube channel, whether this man is actually Jamaican, and they're valid questions that I believe do need to be answered because it raises some serious concerns. I also see some people saying we don't want him back here if he's a murderer, and I can understand that sentiment, but we as a nation, bound by our laws and our due process and our strictures, we have a duty to our citizens when they run afoul of the law overseas. And he has committed, to my knowledge, if this person is a Jamaican, to my knowledge, he's served his sentence in the United States and he has not committed a crime here in Jamaica of which he has yet been charged. And the only way we can find all of this information out is we need the intervention of the government and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to shed some light on what is going on.
And I can flip it, Siobhan, because let's say, for example, someone from the Caribbean, they migrated to Jamaica, let's say a Haitian or someone from, let's say, Trinidad. That person came to Jamaica, committed a crime. The first thing that many of us would say is send him back to his country. So why then, if this man is, we can prove that he's Jamaican, run afoul of the law in the United States, why shouldn't he not be back to his country of origin? It's just a fair thing. Nothing is wrong, and nothing is wrong with us accepting whomever is deported from whichever country back to their country of origin. It's the only fair thing that must happen.
Precisely. So, I mean, I appreciate, see, discussions like this remind me how intelligent and far more deeply thought out many of our YouTubers and listeners are. So I appreciate that there's a level of intellectual discourse on this topic, but it boils down to the fact that the man has rights as a Jamaican citizen if it is accurate that he is a Jamaican, and he must be allowed to make use of those rights under our law. So we will see how matters turn out. We reach out to Kamina Johnson-Smith and the government to please, this is a matter that urgently needs your interjection. But Carl, you're on the line. Good evening.
Evening, Sanjay.
Good evening, Carl.
Sanjay, do you have no straight connection to Mr. Golden?
That's Mark Golden? No, I don't.
I mean, the one you call him and think his mom is a bunty to come to the front eye line. Front eye class this evening. And the reason why I'm happy. Did you see the Observer front page this morning?
Yes.
I wonder if Golden and Bunting it. That is a taxi driver. Not all of us are included into those things. But a lot is there also. So when Bunting and Golden did I tell you, say, I'm going to use taxi man to carry school kids. I wonder if them look at the Observer front page this morning and see it. Those are questions I need to ask to those people. And if I should go around Jamaica and do an interview, a lot of persons would have tell you that what both Golding and Bunting say is stupid. Stupid. Anyhow, thank you very much, Mr. Valls, for representing the PMP at the 93 bus this morning over Portmore.
So just to be clear, as I understand it, there was no representative from the government at that matter?
At this matter.
Regarding those 93 buses that were handed out.
From the opposition?
You mean the opposition?
Yes, from the opposition. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, Mr. Darrell Valls bring greetings on behalf of the opposition.
Oh.
That is unfortunate.
So that's why I say thanks, Mr. Valls, very much for it. And the question I want to ask Sanjay, I know if we go back to 2016, you remember 2016, Ultra Simpson Miller Jauta, the debate? And if I did, we are go back now.
I would really hope not, and I would think, Carl, that the PNP they would have learned from that, and a valuable lesson also to not pull out from any debate, because it hurt the PNP in the end.
And I can't imagine they would feel that it would be in any way in their interest of the image of the party in terms of trying to put yourself together as an alternative government to say you're going to pull out of a debate.
Because the reason why I asked that question, if today the opposition didn't know that he's supposed to be at Portmore today and enjoy that something, turn up and then not send nobody to represent them. That's why the question I'm asking, if this will be the same thing with the 2016 debate.
I don't think that would make such a mistake at all.
That gives them a firm opportunity to address the majority of Jamaicans in a direct debate with the government, and you're going to pass up that opportunity unless you really believe that you have no ability or anything in order to actually back up your comments and statements in terms of an alternative government and presenting a better way forward for the Jamaican people. That is the only way I could say the opposition would actually step out of a debate.
Okay. Because, look here how it goes now. So when you listen Sunday from what come from down, then catching out by Mr. Warmington after Sunday night with us there. Prime Minister tell you which party in ban, and he said all who want to check it can go check it. And the Prime Minister also said he having documents. That will one of the heavy debate that we'll have to ask the leader of the opposition on that debate. And I hope to God that then will open the line that some of us can call to ask him that question. And the next question I want to leave with tonight. I want to ask Chef Sanjay.
Yeah.
Sanjay, how can you be a citizen of England and you go and get a visa to go back to your yard?
Well, my understanding on that one is if you're traveling on a diplomatic passport to some countries, you will need a diplomatic visa if you're on official business.
Yes.
That was my understanding.
And I understand that, but that's not what we are discussing here. We know about that one.
Right.
But if you're a citizen of England, you doesn't need an ordinary visa to go to England.
No, you don't.
You don't. Now, the question is, how did Mr. Golding come by those two visas? That is the question.
All right, Carl.
That is a relevant.
I don't think either myself or Sanjay are equipped to answer that question, but thank you for the call.
Before you run your update, I heard Dayton Campbell the call for Mr. Warmington to be charged. I'm still waiting upon you, Dayton Campbell. Today is Wednesday. How come you not call up on the leader of the opposition? We tell the Jamaica people them two are the expletive, just like what he did go down on Nannyville and call them damn idiot. Call the Jamaica people damn idiot and then tell them somebody was in a Manchester that day evening. That is to look upon what him have up in sleeve. And nobody don't come to me and tell me no say I did the labor right then we must talk when he talked on Nannyville. The labor right are Jamaican. So if you tell even somebody who is a labor right that him is a damn idiot, is the Jamaican citizen, you tell them is a damn idiot.
All right, Carl.
Me as a foolishness.
All right, Carl. Thank you for the call. Omalo, good evening.
Good evening, Trevor. Good evening, Sanchez.
Good evening, Omalo.
You know, I really was there worrying and thinking, who verified that this man is a Jamaican?
As I said, it's a very good question, Omalo, and the only people who can answer that, because it is not us here suggesting or intimating that he's Jamaican. It was the U.S. Department of Homeland Security which made that assertion, and all we can do is try to verify.
You see the description of what the Americans gave about the human being.
But we know what that is. It's an attempt to dehumanize them and just for the benefit of their citizens.
I was very angry at Nationwide repeating that description of them.
It is an attempt to dehumanize them, which is why they pointed to the heinous crimes and describe them in such a way as being barbaric. It's an attempt to dehumanize them to better allow their own citizens to swallow the pill of having them deported to a third country. That is what it is.
And I don't think Nationwide should repeat anybody describe black people in this way.
I can understand that concern, Omalu.
Please, take that in consideration next time. The next thing that I'm talking about is the people that came on the radio today talking about the difficulty in getting labor and suggesting that we should go to Haiti and get labor. I know I'm really having a problem with these people.
Why is that?
Why?
You see, these people, where this pool of workers are, where these people want to get workers. Is a place where if you continue getting low-skilled workers in this area and getting them at a certain number, wages can never rise because you're suppressing wages, and they wouldn't have any need for supply and demand, because the supply would be so big that they wouldn't have to pay the way to retain these people or treat them a certain way. And I'm really having a problem with these people because it is not the government really supposed to really be talking about they're setting minimum wages. This thing that they call, the government have a duty there, but I'm saying supply and demand must also determine labor wages, because people are selling their labor to these people. And if the labor is scarce, then you should see it in the marketplace, but it is not showing in the marketplace because these extractors that love cheap labor, because that is where they think they can benefit and gain their profit from, always want to suppress wages. What is the rise of wages this year so far? 3.6%. It's under the minimum, it's under inflation. So why are they thinking that people want to come and work when prices are increases faster than wages?
But Omala, you start on an incorrect premise, because you're assuming that everyone from Haiti, they're low skilled. So that's where you're going wrong to begin with. Yeah? The second thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that...
That's from a wrong premise. When the people said this is the area they are looking workers in.
But did they necessarily say they're looking for low skilled?
Low skilled, yeah.
Because I don't think Jamaica's issue right now is the lack of low-skilled workers. It's the lack of... And they said it at the start of the conversation. The rate of certification among our workers is what? She said 30 to 40%. And that is the area they're trying to fill. We're talking about the skilled workers, those with the proper talents and abilities to fill key positions such as engineers, forklift drivers, etc. Those are the areas where we're lacking. And that is the area that they're talking about filling. Just like when we're saying we want to go to areas like Lagos and Nigeria to get nurses and doctors.
And these are the people that they are in Haiti sitting down waiting for Jamaicans to come and hire them.
do you believe that they don't, those type of workers don't exist in Haiti and would not jump at an opportunity to leave such a country to what by any measure would be considered green pastures?
By any measure, Haiti are training more engineers and forklift workers more than Jamaica.
But it's not a matter that they're training more than us. It's the fact that we aren't training enough, Omalo. It's a simple plus. So
you are saying that they have a surplus and we don't, and we're going to take their surplus.
We're talking about a competitive. Why are our workers, where we don't have a surplus and the US don't have a surplus, why are they leaving here in Jamaica to go to the United States? Because they can get a better opportunity there. We're applying the same principle. We're applying the same principle to another country such as Haiti, Nigeria, and other such territories that they may not have the opportunity to go to the United States for whatever reason, but we can offer them better than what they are being offered as to where they are. That is how a globalized marketplace works.
Maybe these modern colonizers that believe in low wages, are not raising wages the way that would attract people for their skills in Jamaica. You ever think about it like that?
What is the GDP of Jamaica compared to the United States or Great Britain or Germany, Omalo?
We're talking about what is the GDP. We don't talk about GDP. We're talking about quality of life. GDP
but it's
is
important.
a number.
And you don't think the GDP per capita of a country figures into its quality of life, Omalo?
You don't understand. GDP can mean 1% of Jamaica is benefiting from all the growth and all the productivity in Jamaica.
I have never heard of a country, I have never heard of any country in the world where the GDP represents only 1% of the population.
You can't talk about America.
And you think America's GDP is a representation of only 1% of the population?
Majority of Americans are not benefiting from the GDP that you're here.
So why are our citizens leaving here to go? Why are Jamaicans leaving here, risking life and limb to go there, Omalo, if they don't feel that there's a benefit to them being in that country versus in Jamaica? Why are nurses and teachers leaving here in Jamaica to take up jobs like working at Amazon as just in the
3 and 4, 5 jobs, Siobhan, what you don't understand? There is
Omalo, sometimes you say some insane things in Omalo. I don't even think you realize it.
Siobhan, could I say something? There's a difference between PPP and GDP. PPP.
I am sure there is, Omalo. You don't have to explain that to me. But the simple fact of the matter is the country's GDP per capita is a good representation of the quality and standard of living of that country.
You could have 6 billion ears in our room and six minimum wage workers in our room, and their 6 minimum wage workers GDP shoot up because of the billionaires. It's not a good measurement.
All right. Thank you, Omalo.
All right, Omalo. Papa, good evening. I know, sometimes I don't understand. So let me leave it alone. I appreciate Omalo's opinions and perspectives sometimes, but let me just leave it alone. He's a good caller, and I don't want to discourage him from calling. Papa Nana, go ahead.
But listen to me, man. Let me tell you something. We're not going to criticize a man, but it's someone I'm here to me. Anyway, I want to say something to you people. And I know you know people have a mind of their own. You know a lot of people in Jamaica, like the big companies, them and things. Why they will say that they want to get people from Haiti? It's because a lot of them, and I hope I don't mean too much bad for the companies. They exploit the poor people, laborers and things, So most of the people now, when they hear they say they can't get no labor, these people trying to do something for themselves, So they want to turn to Haiti, where they can pay them one little wages, where them think can just barely but make them survive. So most of the Jamaican people now know that most of the companies that is in this country is on the back of the poor man, they trying to reach where they are,
I hear you, Papa Nana.
No, but that cut me off here.
I'm not cutting you off, I hear you.
They climb on the back of the sufferers, like how you see the comrade trying to use most of the people who is illiterate to help to downfall the country, right? And that is the reason why you see they prefer the people who can look at the buses that the people then get to carry people, the school children. They know that is a little natty head picnic, them are going to take it. And those buses should be reserved for them, what them call it, tapanari, picnic them. And that is the reason why they are fighting against it. You understand?
I understand.
I am telling you the honest truth. I am warning the people of Jamaica. I am begging them, please think twice. Because I personally believe that look what happened today now. The shadow minister of transport was supposed to go to do the opening of the handing over of the 93 bus. And it was a no-show. And I am positively certain that he does not act off his own. Marky Eli Golden must be telling him that if him go, him out. Because remember now we know, is the comrade and the comrade. Now we know, and the comrade is who running things. You understand? So it must be an instruction he get from the leader not to go. And he can't go. You understand? And that is bad. You understand? I believe, and I'm telling you the honest truth, I think that the comrade is a disgrace to man and an embarrassment to God. No, have a good evening.
All right, Papa Nana.
All the best.
So, just to do some simple math, I don't know if I'm always still listening. So, let's look at Haiti and Jamaica in terms of GDP per capita. In 2023, Haiti's GDP per capita was $1,700 US. Jamaica's GDP capita is 6 times that. So you can understand why, even if it's not a perfect measure of the prosperity of a country, the GDP can explain why a nation's skilled workers would leave that nation and go to another nation to find a better opportunity, because there's a good chance, actually I don't even say good, there's a simple, perfect chance that your skill in that country would be of more value in terms of what you will get back for it when you leave to another country. It's the same principle that applies to Jamaicans leaving to the United States and the United Kingdom. What we're saying is, if there are people in Haiti and other territories that are, for whatever reason, not on the same level in terms of economic capacity as Jamaica, give them the opportunity to come to Jamaica and utilize those skills for our benefit. We're taking advantage of the same global market that we are getting taken advantage of in terms of people leaving to the United States. I don't see why that should be a challenge to many Jamaicans. We're not talking about bringing in somebody from Haiti just to pick up garbage on the street because somebody in Jamaica can do the exact same low-skilled job. That's not what we're saying.
All right. We're looking at the shortage. Where is it that we have that shortage? And can individuals, for example, from Haiti, can those individuals come and help us with the shortage that we have? That's the thing that is to the fore.
Yeah, so I see people talking about other countries such as Barbados in terms of why they have better, in terms of why Jamaicans can get more for what they do over in here, Jamaica, in countries like Barbados. Because in Barbados, their GDP per capita, believe it or not, is actually higher than ours as well. Mm-hmm. Which is why many Jamaicans find better opportunities in other Caribbean countries. Barbados' GDP per capita is 4 times ours. So yes, that is how globalization has affected the world. It's not just a marketplace of ideas and goods, it's a marketplace of people. And people will obviously move towards where they feel they can get better opportunities. And it's time we as a Jamaican country take advantage of that same global marketplace to fill our own coffers. That's all we're saying. People who seem to think that I have somehow gotten it wrong by suggesting that the US is somehow a bed of roses. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the US presents better opportunities in terms of its economic capacity than we do. And we should similarly take advantage of that unfortunate unequal way the world has become. But that's where I have to leave it. It's 7:57. We are getting the wrap-up signal. So thank you all for you on the YouTube and in Radio Land. It has been quite a intellectual discourse to see the YouTube chat today. Thanks to our super producer this evening, that would be Sonia Stewart. Thanks to our technical operator Andrew the Glen Boogs Anderson, as well as Cara Powell, our editor who leads one of the most impressive user and production departments in the country. Thank you so much. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful evening.
Need reliable